Good morning. Call the meeting to order. Board of Pharmacy. Let's do a roll call. Greg, you want to give us a start?
Greg Lippy, public member.
Lavanza Butler, professional member.
Stan Weiser, professional member.
Victor Law, professional member.
Amy Gutierrez, professional member.
Debbie Veal, professional member.
Alan Chad, professional member.
Okay, well, I'll start out with public comments for items that are not on the agenda or agenda items for future meetings. So any of the public would like to come forward and provide any comments? Okay, if not, we'll move on to petitions for reinstatement of licensure or other reduction of penalty. Desiree, is there anyone in order that we'd like to do first? No. Okay, so we'll call up William Mumbert.
Okay.
I'd like to introduce a judge. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Judge Debbie Nye Perkins, and we're here for a petition for reinstatement. So if the recording is ready, I need to make sure the recording is going, and we're all
Are we
fine with
recording,
that.
Victor?
Are we recording everything?
Yes?
Okay. All right. I will open the record in the matter of the petition for reinstatement filed by William J. Mumbert. This bears Office of Administrative Hearings, case number 2016-090225, agency case number 5965. Today's date is September the 22nd, 2016. Again, my name is Deborah Nye Perkins. I am an administrative law judge with the State of California Office of Administrative Hearings. I am not associated with the Board of Pharmacy. And we are here today for the consideration of a petition of reinstatement with the board. And may I take appearances of counsel for the record, please?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Desiree Kellogg, Deputy Attorney General, appearing on behalf of the people of the State of California pursuant to Business and Professions Code Section 2760.1 and Government Code Section 11522.
Thank you, Ms. Kellogg. Mr. Mumbert, are you here representing yourself today?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Let me give you a little bit of an explanation. As you know, you have the burden of proof to show that you're entitled to reinstatement, but typically people with the burden of proof present their case first. But in these cases, I find it more efficient to allow Ms. Kellogg to do so and then allow you to present your case afterwards. So we're going to do it that way today. So with that, Ms. Kellogg, would you like to provide an opening statement?
Well, initially, I'd like to introduce exhibits into evidence and then do an opening statement.
Great.
if
That would be great. Do you have documents that you can provide to me?
Yes. I'd like to mark for identification and offer into evidence as Exhibit 1, the original petition packet with accompanying documents.
Ms. Kellogg, I want to stop you. Do you have a packet for me to actually?
Yes.
Okay, could you, so I can mark it as we go along?
Okay.
Makes it a little bit easier.
Okay. Would you like to mark them right now?
Yes,
May I approach?
please. Okay, and I assume you've given these documents to Mr. Mumbert as well?
Yes, he's been
Okay.
provided with them.
Okay, so I have a petition packet connected here. I assume you want to mark that as Exhibit 1. I believe that's what you said?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll mark that as Exhibit 1. And what do we have next?
The default decision and order as Exhibit 2.
Okay. Doesn't appear to be in order here. Hold on one second. I'm not sure that I have the default decision and order in this packet. Is it included in the first?
No,
Flipped
it's the
portion?
second one.
Okay, the next thing I have is a CLE document.
That's part of the petition packet.
Oh, that's part of the petition?
Yes.
Where does that end?
Where the next tab is.
Oh, I see. Okay, under, the next tab is the default decision and order. I'll mark that as Exhibit 2.
Exhibit 3, certified copies of the Nevada discipline orders.
From the Nevada State Board of Pharmacy.
Yes.
Okay, I'll mark that as Exhibit 3. Under the next tab,
Exhibit 4, certified copies of the Hawaii discipline order.
okay, I'll mark that as Exhibit 4.
And then Exhibit 5, the agreement to electronic recording of hearing.
Okay, I'll mark that as Exhibit 5. Oops. Any further documents?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Mumpert, do you have any documents in addition to these that you'd like to rely on here today?
No, ma'am, I don't.
Okay. All right, with that, Ms. Kellogg?
Yes, thank you. Petitioner was licensed as a pharmacist by California, Hawaii, and Nevada. He has been disciplined in all 3 states as follows. In Nevada, on or about December 15, 2000, petitioner had his license placed on probation for being under the influence of dangerous drugs while on duty as a pharmacist, diverting dangerous drugs from his employer, and being arrested and convicted of driving under the influence of those drugs. On or about December 21st, 2010, petitioner had his license revoked for diverting dangerous drugs for a second time from his employer. He diverted over 800 Norco tablets and 30 diazepam tablets on multiple occasions over several months. On or about September 4th, 2013, petitioner petitioned to have his pharmacist license reinstated, but petitioner tabled his request after the Nevada board advised him that it would be denied. The board then, on or about March 14th, petitioner requested again that his license be reinstated. The board then placed his license on probation for 2 years with his probationary status ending last March. However, petitioner was compelled by the Nevada board to enter into a 10-year diversion contract with no possibility of early release, which he entered into on or about February 14th, 2013. He has completed about 3.5 years of that contract. It is set to expire in or about February 2023. In Hawaii, on or about October 23rd, 2014, petitioner had his license placed on probation for failing to report out-of-state discipline, the imposition of out-of-state discipline, and for professional misconduct. He's currently on probation until next month. In California, effective December 28, 2011, an order for automatic suspension of his license was issued pursuant to Business and Professions Code Section 4301.5. Effective April 12, 2012, petitioner's pharmacy license was revoked by the California State Board of Pharmacy by way of a default decision for the imposition of out-of-state discipline, his criminal conviction, and for dishonest acts. Petitioner has now filed a petition for reinstatement of his license. I am now prepared to proceed with questions for petitioner unless petitioner wishes to make an opening statement.
Thank you, Ms. Kellogg. Mr. Mumbert, you're entitled to an opening statement, but before we do that, actually before I allow you to testify, I'm going to place you under oath. So could you please raise your right hand for me?
Stand or sit?
You can sit, that's
Okay.
fine. Do you swear under the penalty of perjury to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this hearing today?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay. And before we begin, I have it already, but would you please state and spell your full name for me?
My name is William James Mumbert. Last name is M-U-M-B-E-R-T. Sorry,
And what is your current age?
I get a little loud sometimes. I'm 50 years old.
Thank you. And what would you like to tell us today?
Well, I was looking over the documents. If I start to get long-winded, please stop me. I tend to ramble.
Oh, I will.
Good. My understanding of this hearing when reading through the proceedings were that what just happened, a review of all of the bad stuff. And then it's my opportunity to tell you the good stuff, which is a little bit awkward for me because I don't tend to be my own cheerleader very well. But I can tell you the way things are and the way things have been going over the last several years. And is now the time to
Yes.
do that, or shall we do the question and answer first? Because there may be duplicate.
Now is the time for you to tell us what you want the board to know, and then after that happens, Ms. Kellogg will have an opportunity to give cross-examination and ask you questions.
Okay, thank you. I asked myself, how far back should I go? You don't want to hear my whole history, I believe. What I want you to know is that I did hit a low point in my life. I hit a bankruptcy, personal, spiritual, mental, emotional, physical. That happened in the summer of 2012. I entered a recovery treatment program, weighing close to 400 pounds. I was a wreck in every area. I had nothing left. I completed the 30-day program. Sorry, get a little choked up sometimes going back there. I went to a halfway house for 5 months after that. That was what it took for me to get ready to re-enter the world, just as a human being. I came back to Reno, revisited the judge who I was on a legal probation at the time, and I had fled, and I reappeared, and the judge reinstated my probation, and I stayed in Reno to complete that. Got a job as a golf course, as a marshal, cleaning bathrooms and following people around, making sure they were keeping up with the next group in front of them and all that. And finished my legal probation. The judge released me 6 months early from that, which allowed me to then approach the Nevada Board of Pharmacy for reinstatement of my license, my pharmacist license. They granted reinstatement with a 2-year probation, and you have all the terms. I thought the world of pharmacy was going to welcome me with open arms. Like, well, Bill, you're finally back. Where have you been all this time? Yeah, it didn't happen. I got a job teaching at a local pharmacy technician program. As it turns out, probably the best thing that ever happened to me. I wasn't ready to get back into pharmacy yet. But it allowed me to get back into the academics, the education, the thought process, get my brain back up and running. You know, I had physically recovered, but now it was time to mentally recover. And so I taught for a year and a half, applying for jobs here and there along the way. After just a few months of teaching, I ran into John Luther, who was my pharmacy manager at Raley's and Incline, where I worked when I got arrested for stealing pills. And we met, talked about a job that he had opening. I told him I had recently been reinstated. I was interested, and he said, "You know, Bill, this job's just not right for you." And he said, I said, "Fine, thank you for seeing me. If something comes up, let me know." Continued teaching. About a year later, John approached me. He said, "Bill, I think this job will be perfect for you." I don't know what had changed about the job over that year. I have a feeling something in me changed over that year. And so I started working my first pharmacy job, ironically, for the gentleman who I was working for when I got arrested and left pharmacy. About 2 weeks later, I was hired by Omnicare Pharmacy. They called me, and I currently work there as a regular part-time pharmacist, guaranteed 24 hours a week. I often work more than that. You know how pharmacy goes. I still work per diem at West Hills Hospital for John Luther, and I still work per diem for the Career College Northern Nevada, mostly as a CPR instructor. I got my CPR instructor license along the way, and I do that. I don't teach classes there hardly ever. They tend to cover their own staff, so they only call me once in a blue moon, probably less than that. I did submit just recently, I hope you all got them, I think you did, to Lisa Esquivel, a couple of performance evaluations from my current job, a year-end December 15, and then a mid-year of 16. And they're good reports. They're positive reports. And again, without bragging or banging my own drum too much, I like what I do and I'm good at what I do. And I've been doing it. Excuse me. And I've been doing it for about a little over a year in Nevada. Let's see. On the legal front, I don't know if I was released from my legal probation. As part of that, the charge was dismissed. So I was very fortunate in that I don't have to carry around a felony on my record. The charge was everything related to the case was dismissed and sealed. You heard about my license reinstatement in Hawaii. That was mostly an amends to myself. I don't really have any intentions to go back to Hawaii to work, but because of my actions, I gave up the right to work in Hawaii, and I wanted to restore that for me. And that probation period is ending next month. I didn't even realize that until this morning. Time flies. On a personal level, I did also submit a letter, and I think you got it, the most recent letter, kind of a status update from my counselor with PRN, Dr. Colin Hodgin, who we've developed a pretty good relationship over the past several years. And that's probably the letter. That letter, in combination with the letter from my current boss, I think are the two that are the most meaningful for me, because they represent my progress as a human being, in recovery and joining, the human race, and as a pharmacist. And what you don't see there, I didn't get a letter from my oldest daughter. I have 3 daughters who I was estranged from for several years. My oldest daughter and I have been able to reestablish our relationship starting about a year ago, I reckon. She came to San Diego from Hawaii to go to college. And we had some very good conversations, and I went down to visit her a couple of different times, and she actually came and stayed with me and my fiance about a month ago for a week. And it was so wonderful to have her with us. I don't yet have that relationship with my second daughter and my third daughter. In fact, my second daughter has told me flat out she really doesn't want to talk to me right now. And my third daughter and I just don't communicate very well. I believe that will change. It's changed with my oldest daughter. Sorry. And I believe that things happen when they're supposed to happen. And it's just not time for those 2 daughters and me yet. Maybe tomorrow. We'll see. I am engaged to be married. I think that's just noteworthy because she's wonderful for me. And she says I'm wonderful for her, so that's good. And I think that's everything legal, professional, personal that I wanted to touch on. And you're giving me the sign like it's time to stop anyway. Thank you.
Actually, Ms. Kellogg, if you'd like to do a cross-examination.
Yes, thank you. What is your date of sobriety?
August 2nd, 2012.
And how many dates of sobriety have you had?
A few. I believe I'm going to say 4.
And when were those dates of sobriety?
1990, October, 2000, 2008, and August 2012.
And how many times have you relapsed?
That's a good question. None, in my opinion. I don't think I was ever done when I look back at my history. I understand this concept of relapse, and I never made the decision for me deep in my heart, deep in my soul, that I was done. So semantics maybe, I don't see myself as ever having relapsed. I wasn't done playing the game. When I hit my bottom in 2012 in that seedy little motel room, I was done. I gave up. I surrendered.
And how many times have you started and stopped using drugs and alcohol?
Several.
Several.
Yeah.
And what years were those? What years did you do that?
Well, I can't put year dates on it. I mean, it would happen several times before a relapse date. It's kind of one of the games that I played as an addicted person. was that I'd quit just to prove to myself that I had some sort of control over the situation, and clearly I didn't. And so then I would resume and quit and resume and quit and resume. And jokingly, I would say quitting's the easiest thing in the world. I've done it a million times. But the truth of the matter is, all of that was game playing until I got to a point of desperation and a point of willingness, which again I finally hit in summer 2012.
Would you say that you started and stopped using drugs and alcohol more than 20 times?
Yes.
More than 40?
I don't know. Probably. Yes.
And when did you start using drugs illegally?
Well, when I was 13, it was illegal to drink alcohol. And at that point, we called it smoking weed. And so that was, that was using drugs illegally.
And
Yeah.
when did you start actually using other controlled substances or dangerous drugs illegally?
Oh, gotcha. The pharmaceuticals. My first time was in the summer of 2000.
And what kind of drugs did you use?
Fioricet and the other one with no caffeine, Phenylaline. Yeah.
Okay. Isn't it true that you submitted records of attending AA meetings in your petition?
That's true, yes,
Do you currently attend meetings?
I do.
And when was the last time you attended an AA meeting?
Thursday last week.
And do you currently have a sponsor?
Yes, I do.
And how regularly do you meet with your sponsor?
We meet in person a couple of times a month. He's moved away, so we talk on the phone frequently, but we see each other. Either he comes down the hill or I go up the hill a couple times a month.
And have you worked the AA steps?
Yes, I have.
And what step are you on right now?
Well, I've worked through the 12 steps entirely, so I spend much of my time on steps 10, 11, and 12.
Okay, and what are those steps?
Step 10 says, continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. That means I'm going through my day, my personal inventory, my actions, my behaviors, my thoughts, everything, every day. And when I get off track, I try to get back on track as quickly as I can.
And what about 11?
11 says, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with our higher powers. We understand and praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out.
And step
And
12?
Step 12 is having had a spiritual awakening. As the result of these steps, we try to practice these principles in all our affairs to carry this message to alcohol.
And what
still
step
suffers.
has been most challenging?
6 and 7 are my favorite. That's probably because I spent the most time there. They're often overlooked in the 12-step recovery program. The book Alcoholics Anonymous only gives a paragraph to each, while they give 160 some odd pages, 64 pages to the rest. So they're glossed over, but they're I had a gentleman explain it to me once. He said they're like a pick and a shovel, 6 and 7. They are simple tools, but very difficult to use.
And what is step number 5?
5 says that we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs.
And do you adhere to that
Yes,
principle?
I do.
Can you please turn to page 2 in the last page of your petition?
Page 2 of the last page. I'm sorry, just if you tell me what you're referring
Page
to.
2 of your petition. Yes, and then the last page of your petition, of your explanations.
This one?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that your signature on these 2 pages?
Yes, it is.
And did you sign the petitions declaring under penalty of perjury under the laws of the state of California that the information in the petition was true and correct?
Yes, I did.
And are your answers to the questions and your explanations in the petition true and correct?
Yes, they are.
Isn't it true that you answered no to question number 14? Are you now on probation or parole for any criminal or administrative violations in this state or any other state?
Yes, that's true.
Isn't it true that at the time of the filing of the petition, you were on probation for administrative violations in Nevada and Hawaii?
No,
You were not on probation in Nevada and Hawaii for administrative violations.
my understanding that meant legal probation. Do you mean the Board of Pharmacy
The
probation?
Board of Pharmacy Administrative
I'm
Violations.
so sorry, I completely misunderstood the question. Yes, I am on probation, or I was on probation at that time for Board of Pharmacy, but not for legal. I thought that meant legal.
So
I'm sorry.
it's correct that you answered question number 14 inaccurately.
Yes, if that means Board of Pharmacy probation, yes, I did. I answered it inaccurately, and I apologize.
And
I
isn't,
misunderstood.
is it true that you drank alcohol every day, all day in a hotel room from October 2010 through August 1st, 2012?
Yes.
And how much did you drink on average each day?
Well, it changed over that period of time. It started probably at a pint or more, a couple of pints a day, I would imagine. Eventually, towards the end, it was at least one of those bottles with the handle on it, often more than that.
Okay. Why did you resign from your employment at the Kaiser Permanente Clinic Pharmacy in Kona, Hawaii?
My wife had filed for divorce. She was a registered nurse at that clinic. It was impossible for me to work with her. I wasn't handling the divorce very well. It wasn't my idea. And I just couldn't work in the same clinic with her. I had to go away.
And why did you resign from your employment at Walmart Pharmacy in Kona, Hawaii after 5 months?
Oh, because I moved back to Lake Tahoe.
And isn't it true that you diverted drugs from 2 of your former pharmacy employers, Safeway Pharmacy and Rally's Pharmacy?
Safeway Pharmacy, yes, back in 2000. That was related to the DUI, and Raley's Pharmacy, that was the big one in 2010 when I was arrested for that felony. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Have you ever diverted drugs from any of your other pharmacy employers?
No, ma'am.
Have you ever been asked to resign in lieu of termination from a pharmacy employer due to suspicion of diverting drugs?
No, ma'am.
Weren't you asked to resign from Safeway Pharmacy and Rally's Pharmacy?
No, Safeway fired me. Raley's not only fired me, they had me arrested. Yeah.
And isn't it true that you were asked to resign from Kaiser Permanente in Kona, Hawaii for suspected drug diversion?
No. There was some behavioral indiscretions on my part, but there was no drug use related to that.
And what were your behavioral indiscretions?
Well, I was taking long lunches. I was leaving the pharmacy during my shift to go outside and walk around. I wasn't very focused on my job. Excuse me.
And why weren't you focused on your job?
My wife had filed for divorce, and that turned my world upside down, and I didn't know how to handle it. And I
And-
was drinking privately, not on the job, but I had started drinking again.
And when did you start drinking in Hawaii?
Oh, it was end of 2008.
And what was the time frame you worked at Kaiser Permanente in Kona?
From 2005 through summer of 2009.
So you were drinking alcohol during that time frame?
Yes.
And when did you resume drinking alcohol?
I'm going to say it was late 2008. Yeah. Because my wife filed for divorce then.
Were you taking drugs during that time frame?
No, ma'am.
And you deny that you were asked to resign from Kaiser Permanente for suspected drug diversion.
Correct.
And you did not divert any drugs from Kaiser?
I did not divert. No, that's not true. I wasn't taking them. There was I did take a couple of pills, a couple of diazepam pills from the Kaiser Pharmacy to help a friend of mine who was withdrawing from alcohol.
And did you illegally take those diazepam pills?
Yes.
Did you take any other drugs from Kaiser illegally?
No, ma'am.
And isn't it true that you admitted to your counselor that you illegally sold drugs you obtained from Kaiser?
That I sold?
Mm-hmm.
No. Sorry. That's a story that came up during my divorce, and it's absolutely not true in any way, and I never admitted that to anybody. It's not true.
Did your ex-wife have a drug addiction problem in 2008?
No.
And when did your ex-wife file for divorce?
Fall of 2008.
And isn't it true that your divorce decree from that same time period required you to be randomly drug tested before you could see your children?
Yes.
And why was that?
Because I had a history of drug use and relapse, and my ex-wife wanted to be sure that I wasn't using or drinking at the time.
But you were drinking you admit that you were drinking at that time.
Yeah, off and on. I had started. I wasn't drinking daily, but I had started again.
So you started drinking in the summer of 2008.
Probably fall or winter, late 2008. Yeah.
You testified previously that you had been drinking in summer of 2008.
Okay.
So you were
Summer,
drinking.
sure.
You were drinking before your ex-wife filed for divorce.
Yes, I had started a couple of times. Yes.
And your testimony is that you weren't using drugs in Hawaii.
That's correct.
And is it true that your drug and alcohol addiction is one of the reasons why your ex-wife filed for divorce?
Yes.
And why would your wife file for divorce due to your drug addiction if you weren't taking drugs?
She told me in 2000 when I got the DUI, she said, if this ever happens again, we're done. And when she found out that I had been drinking again, she just said, we're done, that's it.
And isn't it true that in your explanations to questions numbers 10 and 11, you state that you were sober for approximately 9 years from 2000 to late 2008, 2009?
Correct, yes.
And isn't it true that you were not sober during all of that time?
Well, end of 2008 or summer of 2008, I can't be sure of the exact dates or the exact times, but it was around that time frame.
But isn't it true that you wrote it in your explanation under penalty of perjury that you were sober till late 2008 and 2009?
That's correct.
And you testified here that you resumed drinking in summer of 2008.
Yes, that's correct. And I'm sorry, it's an approximation. There was, I can't pinpoint an exact date.
Isn't it true that in your answer to question number 12, have you ever been or are you currently under observation or treatment for mental disorders, alcoholism, narcotic or hypnotic drug addiction? You list 2 rehabilitation facilities, Maynard and Dove Ridge, for which you've been treated for alcohol or drug addictions.
That's correct.
And is this a complete list of all of your facilities that you've been a member of
No.
or participated in?
No, it's not.
And what other facilities have you been treated for alcohol or drug addictions?
In 1988, I went to a place called Starting Point. And in 1990, I went back there for a couple of weeks. In the fall of 2008, I went into a place called Big Island Recovery in Hawaii, and I elected to leave there, and I went to a place in Oregon that was geared towards addiction in professionals. And I'm trying to remember the name of the place. It was a Hazelden clinic, but I can't remember the name of the place. And I went there for a couple of weeks and then went back to Hawaii.
And why did you go to an addiction center, Big Island of Hawaii, in fall of 2008 if you were sober?
I had started drinking a few times, and my wife filed for divorce, and it was an attempt to save the marriage.
But it's your testimony that you were taking no drugs at that time.
That's correct.
And it's true that your question, your answer to that question was not complete in terms of the rehabilitation facilities that you participated in.
That's correct.
And why didn't the Nevada Board reinstate your license in 2013?
Hadn't been enough time yet. They wanted me to complete 1 year with PRN and come back and see them.
Have you ever violated your criminal probation?
Violated my probation. Yes, I fled.
And which probation was this where you fled?
Oh, that was the legal probation for the felony charge, for which I was arrested in 2010.
And where did you flee?
That was when I was in the hotel room, and it was a god-awful place, Cameron Park Motel 6. Don't ever go there. That was when, yeah, I was due to, the judge had put me on probation, the legal probation, and asked that I appear every 6 months for a status update, and I did not show up at my status update appointment. That was, again, when I was hiding out during that last period of heavy drinking. Then when I stopped drinking and I went into treatment, that's when I decided to start cleaning up the wreckage of my past, and I went back in front of the judge and reappeared, and he reinstated my probation.
And have you ever violated your criminal probation in any other respects?
No, ma'am.
Isn't it true that the director of the Nevada Drug Diversion Program testified at your first reinstatement hearing that you do not do well unless you're under supervision?
That is true. That testimony was made. That's the reason for the 10-year contract with PRN instead of a 5-year contract.
And do you agree with that assessment?
Absolutely, at that time.
I have no questions at this time.
Do any of the board members have any questions? We can start at Mr. Schad, perhaps you can start.
Oh, okay. What are your duties at Omnicare presently?
My title is, we'll start there, I'm a part-time dispensing pharmacist. And my duties, as in any pharmacy, are multiple. I do what they call a PV2, that's the final pharmacist verification, making sure that the right drug is filled under the right label, the right product matches the prescription. I also do the PV1, or the first pharmacist verification, making sure that the data entry technician entered the right data as compared to the prescription. I spend a lot of time chasing down doctors to get valid prescriptions. Doctors constantly enter chart notes as prescriptions in skilled nursing facilities. That's okay without quantities. For controlled substances, it's not. So I spend a lot of time chasing down controlled substance or taking verbal orders for valid prescriptions. And then I supervise the technicians in all of the standard stuff, the inventory control, making sure that our deliveries are leaving on time. Our customers are skilled nursing facilities that are not the general public. We don't deal with the public. So we're constantly running product out to various facilities.
Now, when you were in recovery, well, what kind of facility was it? Was it psychological counseling? Was it a social model? Or what was the essence of the recovery therapy?
Call it a traditional 12-step recovery-based program. It was, there were some various counselors that we saw that were not 12-step oriented, but the skew tended to be that way.
Are you a sponsor now?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
Yeah, I had a question. I just noticed that you get real emotional with your daughters.
I do.
The youngest, and I guess you have two of them, three of them, but the two youngest. Have you sought out any type of counseling to deal with them?
Yes.
Since that's what triggers, it looks like it really gets you emotional and can set you off on the wrong path, I would believe.
I get emotional about a few things, and my daughters are very close to my heart. And the part of your comment, two parts. Yes, Dr. Hodgen is also a family and marriage counselor, so he and I talk about everything that's going on with me, including my relationship with my ex, which has become civil, which is nice, and the relationships with my daughters, which, like I said, has become wonderful with my oldest daughter, and is still very much a work in progress with my second and third daughter. The second part there is, and I understand, is that this idea that if I'm emotionally unsettled, or at least appear to be emotionally unsettled, that it puts me at risk for drinking or using. And again, not to sound boastful, but much of my life in the past was based on being a control freak and hiding my emotions, kind of, almost like the superhero living a double life kind of a thing. Today, I don't hide my emotions. I share them openly. They are what they are. And often I get teased, cry like a baby. Well, I often will retort, I cry like a man, because only a true man is comfortable enough to share those innermost feelings. And my girls tug at those heartstrings. They do. And I have 100% faith. I believe that those relationships will heal when it's time. And even though it's time for me, that doesn't necessarily mean it's time for them. And with my oldest daughter, it became time. With my next two, it's not time yet, but it will.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for being here. I know, sitting in front of us and having us all stare at you and ask questions is tough. Congratulations on your sobriety,
Thank you.
and also on losing 200-plus pounds.
Well, no, almost 200 pounds.
Okay.
But thank you, yeah.
Well, you didn't have to, it wasn't
This
true
is
confession.
slimming,
but
yeah.
The table hides it well, no, I'm kidding. So I do have a couple questions.
Yes, ma'am.
My first question is, why do you want your license back in California?
Because I want to work in California. I'm engaged to be married to a woman who lives in Tahoe City, and I grew up basically, went to high school, and I consider that home. It's always kind of drawn me back, and I want to be able to live there full time. Right now, I visit. I live and I work in Reno, and I want to live and work in California. There are also, there's chitter chatter with, mostly with one of my brothers. I have two brothers and a sister. And my one brother keeps pushing me to open a compounding pharmacy. He wants to be an entrepreneur and go into business for himself. And I say, I'm not even licensed in California anymore. We can't do that.
So your brother's licensed?
No, he's a
Oh.
businessman.
Okay.
He wants to be the businessman, and he wants me to do the pharmacy part of it. Yeah.
And
So anyway.
how do you feel about your ability to be unsupervised? Because you had said that back in 2013-ish, when you were at the hearing in Nevada,
Mm-hmm.
that the one individual said, you need supervision
Mm-hmm.
a lot, and that's why it's 10 years, and you agreed.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like opening this pharmacy, there would be no supervision.
Well, depends on what you mean by supervision, I guess. And I think what Larry meant, and I can't speak for him, was that certainly at that time that I do better, and the evidence showed that at that time, when I am checking in with a counselor and when I am subject to random drug testing and when I am regularly attending meetings. And I can't argue with that. I don't know yet. What I do know is that I do feel comfortable in my own skin, and I don't react to external events to the point where I'm twitchy or trigger happy or where I'm high flight risk, if you will. And I think Larry, the gentleman who made that statement, may very well make a different statement today. I don't deal with Larry very much. He's the head of the Nevada PRN program, but he's based out of Las Vegas, and I live in Reno. So I deal with Colin, Dr. Colin Hodgin. He's the director of the Northern Nevada. So it's he and I who have developed a relationship. So it's his feedback that I rely on more. The business thing with my brother, I don't, honestly, come on, really? I'm 50 years old. I'm going to open a new business. I don't know how successful that's going to be. I entertain his thoughts, but there's a lot of things that have to happen before that dream would ever become a reality. And this is part of that process.
What are the terms of your Nevada probation?
Well, probation's over. I'm no longer on probation. I can tell you what they were.
I was saying you had a 10-year,
Oh, that's with the PRN, the Pharmacist Recovery Network.
Okay.
That's the recovery program.
so you have to stay linked with the PRN for 10 years?
Yes, there
And what
are.
does that mean?
That means that I test, I drug test, drug and alcohol, they call it a biochemical test, twice a month, randomly. And I attend once a month group peer counseling sessions. And then I attend at least 2 AA meetings a week. And they've stopped asking me for signature slips after 2 years of the meetings. But I still attend at least 2 meetings a week anyway. So I do that for me, not for them.
Let's see. And I just want to note, when you were talking about step 12, you said that there were some things you had worked on around step 12. I was just curious, what are those activities?
Well, it's more of a general lifestyle. Step 12 says 3 things: that I've had a spiritual awakening as the result of the previous 11 steps, and I believe that to be true. It says that I will practice these principles, again referring to the previous 11 steps, that I will practice those principles in all my affairs. And I do believe that I try to live the program. I don't just read it and be spiritual for an hour during a meeting and then go be a jerk out in the world.
So, I guess, so let me, if I can interrupt you, what does that mean, you live?
Well, the best thing I can do is by example. There was a gentleman in a meeting. I try to live the principles of honesty and forgiveness and kindness and generosity and stay away from self-centered, ego, selfish, driven type behaviors. Just try to be a good person, I guess. And there was a gentleman in a meeting once who was nice and spiritual during the meeting, said lots of happy, flowery, wonderful comments, and get outside and go home. I got a ride home from him, and you put him behind the wheel of a car, he became a maniac. He was swearing at people and cursing and cutting people off, and it's like, is that how you live? So there was an incongruity there, and that's what I strive to avoid, is just, be one. Be one person, be me.
And I think I interrupted you. I think you had one more point to 12.
Carry the message,
Okay.
the third part of step 12. And that means to take what I've learned and what I've benefited from the program and share it with those who need it. And part of that is sponsoring.
And does
help
that
them.
include, do you envision your children?
I believe there's a genetic predisposition, so absolutely. I think what I've learned, many of the things that I've learned in the recovery way of life has helped me reestablish relations with my daughter, which is probably why I haven't been able to do that with the other two, because the communication isn't there to exchange a dialogue and to share information. Their vision of me is based on the past. And looking back at the things that happened in the past, there's a lot of ugliness there. I'm not going to argue with that. I was there. It's ugly. But that's not today, and that's not the past several years, and that's not where we are now. So anyway.
And I have one last question.
Yes,
That
ma'am.
is, from the folks that we've talked with in the past, they talk about what their backup plan is. So when they get to that point where they might feel, divorced, your fiance decides forget it, whatever. What is your backup plan so that you don't find yourself in the throes of addiction?
I have a lengthy phone list. The top two, are my sponsor and Colin, and I have an address. I got a gentleman who lives out, in a neighborhood, kind of a suburb neighborhood, not too far from me. And he's, he gives me this, and I go see him, and he, that would be the backup plan. Talk me down. He's the guy who says, if you're going to go drink, come see me. I'll buy you your first one. Right, which is just a trick. That's what you say. I tell that to my sponsee right now. Come. You want to go drink? You come, get me. I'll go with you. I'll drive you there. I'll buy you the first one. And that obviously that's just to get them to talk to me face to face, because when people are alone, they tend to just listen to their own thoughts, which can sometimes lead them astray.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Congratulations on your sobriety, Mr. Mumford. Thanks.
Thank you.
I agree with this, as Debbie has just stated, this is a difficult process to go through with all of us looking at you. I have some questions about your employment. You're working for CVS Health now, under
Correct.
Mom. And how long have you been doing that?
Since August 31st of last year was my hire date. It's a little over a year.
Okay. And you're working part-time?
Yeah, that's my title.
Okay.
Sometimes I'm working 90 hours in 2 weeks, which I couldn't have done while I was on probation, but I cover vacations. Summertime, we're coming off of vacation season, so I don't have a single pay period that's 48 hours only. It's more than that.
And before August of 2015, when was the last time you worked as a pharmacist, given all the probations in the various states that you've had?
Well, I worked with West Hills Hospital very briefly before. They almost coincided with each other. Before that, it was Rayleigh's Pharmacy in Incline Village, where I was arrested and fired in 2010, October 2010.
Okay, so there's been like a 5-year gap where you haven't worked full-time.
Correct, yes ma'am.
Okay. And your current job, you're doing PV2?
PV1 and PV2.
Okay. What are you doing to keep your skills up in terms of making sure you're up on all of the new medications that are out? What do you use for that?
Well, I do a lot of CE, obviously, and I use Pharmacist Letter and I use PowerPack for CE, and I'm reading constantly Pharmacy Times and U.S. Pharmacist, and I kind of actually read a lot of back issues of Pharmacist Letter. I like that little thing. It's short and sweet and to the point, and it kind of shows me areas where I need more help, and then I'll go online now. I'm becoming part of that generation. I look stuff up, and I refuse to use Google as a verb, but I will research things using my favorite search engine, and just use those online resources.
Okay. So you're up on things like the latest Hep C therapy, what drugs can be used, how often you give medications?
I'm getting there. Mostly my focus has been on geriatric medicine because that's where I work. I mean, that's what I do every day. That's my clientele. So that's my primary area because that's where I'm working. So I need to focus there. The other stuff, it kind of comes in bits and pieces.
And you generally use more clinical skills under PV1, probably most likely.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
how much of the time do you do PV1?
It's a secondary responsibility for me, probably a quarter of my time.
Okay. And you feel at this point that you've got the ability to work in any pharmacy situation with your pharmacist skill level?
I don't know about any. I don't think I ever could do any. But I have an
Retail.
extensive retail background, and yeah, I'm a good retail pharmacist, and I believe I'm ready to do retail again. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi. I just want to tell you that the Board of Pharmacy is all about consumer protection. So theft, drug diversion, and self-administrations are serious violations of pharmacy laws. So that's why they might not be come to you with open arms when you come back. And we just want to make sure that it's not going to happen again. So now you mentioned that in 2008 you had the divorce, and you went through the divorce with difficult times, and now you're into another relationship. Tell the board that how you're going to convince us that in case if there's a fallout with this relationship, you're not going to go back to the old days again. Now, what have things different, or what have changed in you?
Thank you. It's a good question. Strange as it might sound, or maybe not, I ask myself that question from time to time. Bottom line is, my life is completely different now than it was then. And I'm a different person now than I was then. And the biggest way, in the biggest way, when I was drinking daily in that hotel room, not caring if I lived or died, having had lost everything that meant anything, I said the first genuine prayer of my life, and it was very simple: God help. And I don't know anything about God. I just didn't know what God was or anything like that. But what it represented to me when I was able to look back at it is it was the first genuine moment that I asked for help from somebody outside of myself. Before that point, I was the consummate self-sufficient man, do everything myself. I almost refused belligerently help. I made up my mind. I would listen to your input, I would nod and smile, and I would go about my merry way. And that lifestyle didn't work for me, and it took repeated examples for me to finally give up to that. I'm a problem solver by nature. Maybe that's what makes me a good pharmacist. I solve problems people don't even know they have in ways they can't possibly understand. But not with my personal life. That's not how to live life. And I didn't know that. And I learned that, and I became aware of it, I should say, at that moment. And then I've been practicing that lifestyle ever since. And it's working for me. I'm not a religious person, but I'm a spiritual person. And the way I see it is God and I have this relationship. We live together in a rowboat, and I paddle and God handles the rudder. And my job is to just keep paddling, okay? The direction in which we go is not up to me, but I got to keep paddling. If I let go with one hand and try to do the steering, you know what happens when you row with one hand? You spin in circles, right? So that simple analogy helps a complex mind like mine move forward during tough times.
And if we do give your license back, would you agree to some kind of probation, like random drug testing, or go to AA meetings, that kind of
Oh,
requirements?
absolutely, absolutely.
And
And I'm already doing that. I'm currently under contract right now, and I'm doing all of that for Nevada, state of Nevada, their PRN, Pharmacist Recovery Network.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions?
Yes.
Taking too long, huh? Sorry.
I too congratulate you on your success.
Thank you.
It appears that your original license was issued in August of '96 to practice pharmacy in the state of California.
Yes, sir.
And in some of your testimony, you referred to sobriety dates in 1990, 2000, 2008, and 2012. What concerns me is, and I'm sure it concerns you, and it concerns probably most of the people around this table, is how many relapses you've had. And I just, I guess I'm not even sure this is a question, but I'm deeply concerned about your relapses, and I'm deeply concerned, as Victor pointed out, the fact that you did take the opportunity to ingest and be compromised and work at the same time. So contrary to being someone who's there to protect the public and help them with their problems. And so I guess it's just a statement rather than a question, that I've got deep concerns about your ability to continue to enjoy the success that you're having for an indefinite period of time. I congratulate you on the fact that you are able to practice in Nevada and Hawaii, but I have, apprehension about your future in California and the future of California consumers who might be patients of yours.
I understand.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other board members have questions?
I do. My question is, if you were to get your license back in California, you would also be obligated to that PRN program, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
My obligation to PRN, Pharmacist Recovery Network in Nevada, is not related to California, working in California, living in California. My obligation to them stands.
Okay, so you would be involved in a new program in the state of California, though, correct?
I don't know.
Okay.
If the world revolved according to Bill, I would say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. What's working is working. Let it keep working.
So you would go back and forth from California to Nevada?
Well, yeah, you're talking from Tahoe City to Reno. It's an hour away.
Oh, okay.
It's not an airplane. It's
Okay. And you've been sober since August 3rd, 2012?
August 2nd.
August 2nd,
Yeah.
2012. So
Yes.
for 4 years, you've been clean and sober.
Correct.
Okay. No more questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
The good part about sitting here is by the time it gets to me, all the questions have been asked. So I'm just going to congratulate you on your sobriety.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, Ms. Kellogg, any follow-up?
No follow-up questions, but I do have a closing.
I'm sorry, yes.
I do have a closing.
Okay, hold on just 1 second. Okay,
It appears as though petitioner has diverted drugs from employers 3 times, 2 times in Nevada and 1 time in Hawaii. That's with diazepam. He's used drugs twice that he's admitted to while on duty as a pharmacist. He is under the PRN diversion contract obligations in Nevada till 2023. If petitioner's license were to be reinstated with drug terms and conditions, he would have obligations in both California and Nevada, which he would have to fulfill and which may conflict and may be difficult to comply with, and there's no guarantee that he would continue to stay on the Nevada-California border. Petitioner has not been truthful or accurate in his petition. He failed to discuss, for example, the fact that he was not sober in summer of 2008, that he engaged in erratic behavior at Kaiser Permanente in Hawaii, and that he attended a inpatient rehabilitation facility in the fall of 2008. Petitioner does best with supervision, according to the director of the Nevada Diversion Program. And in fact, Nevada has required him to be in PRN for 12 years with no possibility of early release, presumably for that very reason. He has had numerous relapses, 4 dates of sobriety, and a significant history of drug and alcohol addiction since, at least by self-admission, 1990. Thank you.
Mr. Mumbert, you're entitled to a closing statement, if you'd like.
I don't have anything further to add. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right. With that, let me give you some information as to how this will proceed from this point. Obviously, I'll close the record here in just a moment, but after I do, the board will meet in closed session later today, and we'll vote on the petition. And at some point after that, I'll have 30 days with which to draft up the decision for the board's approval, and you'll receive the final decision after that time.
Okay.
Okay? And with that, the matter is submitted and the record is closed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do we need to take a break? Okay, if we can take a 10-minute break before the next petition.
Roll call, so I'd like him to have them introduce themselves for the record. Recording? Yes.
Valerie Munoz, public member.
Ricardo Sanchez, public member also.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, we'll move on to the second petition, and if we are recording and that's proceeding, I will open the record in the matter of the petition for reinstatement filed by Albert Angel Avalos. This bears Office of Administrative Hearings, case number 2016-090222, agency case number 5958. Today's date is September 22nd, 2016. And again, I'm Deborah Nye Perkins, an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings assigned to this matter to sit with the board. May I take appearance of counsel for the record, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning. Desiree Kellogg, Deputy Attorney General, appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California pursuant to Business and Professions Code Section 2760.1 and Government Code Section 11522.
Thank you, Ms. Kellogg. Mr. Avalos, are you here representing yourself today?
Yes.
Okay. Again, as you know, the burden of proof is on you to prove that you are entitled to reinstatement of your license. And how we will proceed today, Ms. Kellogg will present her jurisdictional documents and provide a statement or background of the case, and then you will have an opportunity to make your presentation to the board. Ms. Kellogg will then have an opportunity to cross-examine you, and the board may have questions as well. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. With that, Ms. Kellogg, I've been handed a package of documents. I'll go ahead and mark these if we can get started with that, and then we'll proceed.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to mark for identification and offer into evidence as Exhibit 1, the petition packet with accompanying documents, the default decision and order as Exhibit 2, and the agreement to electronic recording of hearing as Exhibit 3.
Okay, I'll mark as Exhibit 1 the petition for reinstatement. Mr. Avalos, I assume you have no objections to my admitting that into evidence?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and then I'll mark as Exhibit 2 the default decision and order. And Mr. Avalos, do you have any objections to my admitting that into evidence?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and then I'll mark as Exhibit 3 the agreement to electronic recording, and I assume you have no objections to my admitting that in evidence. Okay. Mr. Avalos, do you have any additional documents in addition to those that I just marked for Ms. Kellogg to rely on today?
No.
Okay. In that case, just one second. Okay, Ms. Kellogg, would you like to provide an opening?
Yes, thank you. Petitioner has a lengthy criminal history. On or about June 23, 1995, petitioner was convicted of driving under the influence of alcohol. On or about November 26, 1996, petitioner was convicted for the first time of driving while his license was suspended or revoked. On or about December 11, 2001, petitioner was convicted for a second time of driving while his license was suspended or revoked. On or about April 6, 2004, petitioner was convicted for a third time of driving while his license was suspended or revoked. On or about April 17, 2008, after pleading guilty to violating Health and Safety Code Section 11377A possession of a controlled substance, methamphetamine. Respondent was placed in a deferred entry of judgment program, which he completed and ultimately had the charges dismissed against him. Effective December 10th, 2010, petitioner's pharmacist technician registration was revoked by way of default decision and an order. Petitioner has now filed a petition for reinstatement of his registration, and I'm now prepared to proceed with questions for petitioner unless he wishes to make an opening statement first.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Avalos, first thing I'm going to do is place you under oath. Could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear under the penalty of perjury to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this hearing today?
I do.
Okay. All right, I'm going to ask you to state and spell your full name for me.
Albert Angel Avalos, my last name Avalos,
Thank you, Mr. Avalos. And what is your current age?
48.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Avalos, is there anything you would like to tell the board?
I just, she says I have an extensive criminal record. I got those tickets. I have kids. I was taking them to school. I've made mistakes in the past, and, I've been married 26 years. Family man, I go to church. Try to be a good guy. So. that's
Okay.
it.
Cross-examination?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Avalos, can you please turn to page 2 of your petition? Is that your signature at the bottom of page 2?
Yes, it is.
Did you sign the petition declaring under penalty of perjury under the laws of the state of California that the information in the petition was true and correct?
Yes.
Are your answers to the questions in the petition true and correct?
Yes.
And isn't it true that you answered no to question number 10? Have you ever been addicted to the use of narcotics?
Yes.
And isn't it true that you answered no to question number 11? Have you ever been habitually intemperate in the use of alcohol?
Or other drugs? Yes. But no.
And isn't it true that you answered no to question number 12? Are you or have you ever been or are you currently under observation or treatment for mental disorders, alcoholism, narcotic or hypnotic drug addiction?
Yes.
And isn't it true that you wrote on page 3 of your petition that I don't do drugs, end quote?
Yes. Wait. Page 3.
Okay. Have you ever used any illegal drugs?
Yes.
And what illegal drugs have you used?
Marijuana.
Have you used any other illegal drugs?
No.
Isn't it true that sheriff deputies searched you and found a bag full of methamphetamine and an empty bag which had previously contained methamphetamine on your person before you were arrested?
No. That's what they stated. That's not what they found.
And what did they find?
Just a bag full of methamphetamine.
I'm sorry, I
So-
did not hear that.
Just a bag full of methamphetamine.
Okay.
They didn't find 2 baggies. That's what they wrote down.
Right. But isn't it true that the sheriff deputies found 2 bags on your person that day?
No, that's not true. That's what they said, but that's not true.
So you're saying that the sheriff
The sheriff-
deputies' arrest report is inaccurate?
It's inaccurate.
And what is your testimony as to what
They-
methamphetamine was
They
found?
found methamphetamine in my pocket, but they didn't find a full baggie and an empty baggie. They didn't find 2 baggies on me.
And how many bags of methamphetamine
One.
did they find? 1. But you're aware that the sheriff deputies wrote in their arrest report that there was 1 bag full of methamphetamine found on your person and an empty bag which had previously contained methamphetamine?
I read that they found 2 bags of methamphetamine,
Um,
but that's not correct.
Well, I'd like to introduce into evidence at this time a copy of the sheriff's report of the arrest of,
Do we have that in our packet now?
no,
Do you have a copy of that?
yes. May
Yes. These, I assume, are multiple copies. Just put it down. Okay, I will mark as Exhibit 4 what appears to be a certified copy of a police report. And I assume you want to admit that into evidence?
Yes.
Okay, any objections, Mr. Avalos?
No.
Okay, I'll admit this document under Lake versus Reed.
Please tell me when you're done reading the arrest report.
Okay. I'm done.
Does reading the arrest report refresh your recollection?
No,
Mr.
I remember what happened that day. I only had one bag. He put down he found 2. He did not find 2.
So your testimony is that the sheriff deputy's arrest report is inaccurate?
It's inaccurate.
Okay. Did you possess the methamphetamine for self-use?
No.
Why did you possess the methamphetamine then?
I possessed it. I went and picked it up for somebody.
Okay, Ms. Kowal, can you hold on for just one second? I'm having a computer issue here, and I don't want you to go. Okay, please proceed.
Okay, thank you. You just testified that you picked up the methamphetamine for someone.
Yes.
Who did you pick it up for?
My brother.
And why did you pick it up for him?
He asked me to. Dumb decision.
I'd like to refer back to page 4 of the arrest report. Isn't it true that you told the sheriff deputies that you had 2 bags of meth that you had just found?
No, it's not true.
So it's your testimony that the sheriff deputy's arrest report is inaccurate?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it your testimony that you told the sheriff deputies that you picked up the methamphetamine for your brother?
I didn't tell him that.
And what did you tell?
I told him I found it.
So it is your testimony that you lied to the sheriff deputies and that you found the methamphetamine?
Yes, I told him I found it.
Besides the court-ordered drug diversion program, have you ever participated in any drug or alcohol rehabilitation programs?
Yes, for the DUI.
Right, for the DUI. Have you participated in any other drug or alcohol rehabilitation programs?
No.
So you've never done any inpatient rehabilitation programs?
No, ma'am.
How about any outpatient rehabilitation programs?
Just the one for this.
Okay. Have you participated in any substance abuse support group programs like AA
Just what they had me do for the
Yeah.
DUI class.
in the court order?
Yes, the court ordered stuff.
And that was in connection with your 2008 conviction,
Arrest.
arrest for possessing methamphetamine?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have to participate in any other court-ordered alcohol programs after your DUI conviction?
No.
So it's your testimony that they didn't require you to participate in a,
Well, when I got arrested for the DUI, I did what they asked me to do. I went to a program for 3 months and
Was-
did AA for 3 months.
okay, so it is your
Oh, yeah.
testimony that you went to AA for 3 months in connection with your DUI?
In 95.
In 95, yes. Have you done any other drug or alcohol diversion programs?
Just the one from 2008.
And how about participating in any substance abuse support groups besides 1995 AA meetings?
No, that's it.
Have you ever had your probation revoked and a bench warrant issued for your arrest?
Yes,
And how many times?
once.
And what were the circumstances of
I
having?
got a ticket for suspended license, and I paid my fine, but I didn't do the weekends for work release instead of going to jail. So I was arrested for 3 days and then released.
So you had your probation revoked and a bench warrant issued because you didn't comply with your jail sentence?
Yes,
And have you had your probation revoked and a bench warrant issued in any of your other cases?
no,
Isn't it true that you failed to pay your fines in one of your criminal cases and had your probation revoked and a bench warrant issued?
no, that was the only time I got revoked was when I didn't do the weekends. They gave me either do work release or go to the county jail. And I chose work release, but I didn't go.
I'd like you to turn to your petition and the documents of your records from your criminal case 1JM09464.
JM 09464.
And page 5.
I got it.
Down at the bottom, it says on 10703, defendant is not present in court and not represented by counsel, probation revoked. Defendant having failed to pay fine, court orders bench warrant issued in the amount of $15,000. Does this refresh your
You know what?
recollection?
No, I don't remember this, but I know I paid all my fines. They might have issued a bench warrant, but it didn't like turn into an arrest. I think I just continued paying my fines and it cleared it up.
During a 6-year period, you were convicted 3 times of driving on a suspended or revoked license.
Mm-hmm.
What is your explanation for your repeated failure to adhere to the driving laws of the state of California?
I just had to drive, I had to go to work, I had to take my kids to school. Pretty much it.
And isn't it true that after your 3rd conviction for driving on a suspended license, the court ordered you to install an ignition interlock device on your vehicle to measure your blood alcohol levels?
No, ma'am. It's never happened.
I'd like you to look at page 3 of case number records 4JM02198. In the middle of the page, it says, in addition, defendant is ordered to install an ignition interlock device on all vehicles owned and driven for a period of 1 year.
I
Is it-
didn't own a vehicle, so I didn't do it.
But does this refresh your
No,
recollection that
no,
the
it
court
doesn't.
orders you to do so?
No, ma'am. They might have ordered it, but since I didn't own a vehicle, I didn't have nowhere to put it.
I don't have any further questions at this time.
Okay. Do any of the board members have questions?
Yeah, I had a question. A couple of questions here. First, I wanted to point out that you were correct, Mr. Avalos, that there wasn't 2 bags of methamphetamine.
I'm for sure there wasn't 2 bags.
No, it's actually on page 5 of the police report. It says you had 2 Ziploc bags. One was empty, and the other contained the The
didn't have
methamphetamine.
2 bags, so
No, I'm
that's-
just saying.
I understand what it says. I'm saying that's what they wrote, but that's not what they found.
Yeah, but it's not 2 bags with methamphetamine, just 1.
No,
That's
no,
what they're actually
I
stating.
didn't, I understand. I didn't have 2 baggies of anything. I mean, I had 1 baggie of methamphetamine. I didn't have an empty baggie that day.
Okay.
I understand the
just-
question.
I-
I understand.
Yeah,
I
I would
did
just-
have I was charged with possession, but I didn't have an extra empty bag.
Okay, the extra empty bag. Okay, I understood it as 2 bags with methamphetamine, so my mistake there. Did you get your driver's license current by chance since
Next month,
next month?
yes.
Okay. And you say you've never taken the AA classes or anything like that, right?
Just for the DUI.
court-
Yeah, the court order.
Okay. And when you were taken in for this, were you tested for
No.
methamphetamine? Did
No.
they need?
They could have tested me, they didn't.
Okay, so you didn't arrest you for?
Stood overnight and just went back.
Okay. You currently employed?
No.
No. Okay. You say you're involved with kids. Your kids' church?
I have 2 kids, go to church.
What, are you involved with your church? Do you do
Yeah.
anything?
Yeah, well, I go to men's Bible study. We go to a group, me and my wife go to a life group together every Wednesday.
Okay. Do you get involved with your community by any chance? Do you do anything for kids or?
Well, just with the school, my younger one's a freshman in high school, and we volunteer for the booster club for the football team.
Okay, that's it.
Any other questions?
Hi, I actually will be recusing myself because at one point you worked for CVS Pharmacy, which is my employer.
Oh, okay.
So are you currently drinking? Do you drink
No.
alcohol now?
Occasionally, but not like, if we go out like to celebrate, I'll have a few beers. That's about it.
Okay, do you consider yourself an alcoholic?
No,
And you don't take any methamphetamine?
no.
So what was the purpose of you picking up that methamphetamine in 2008?
Just for my brother, just something he asked me to do, and
Did you know it was
I
methamphetamine?
knew what it was. I knew what I was doing. I can't blame him. I made the choice to do it, and I got in trouble for it.
At one point, you were working at Walmart?
Yes.
The garden center? What happened?
I have healthy. I got gout. I got, I'm diabetic. I have something called sarcoidosis, and just things would happen where I'd get gout. I couldn't walk, or I couldn't use my hand, and I missed too many days in my first, 3 months of probation.
So when would you leave Walmart
May 22nd.
of this year?
Yes,
And then you've been working for CVS as an associate or
I
clerk?
was.
You what?
yeah.
And when did that end?
October 29th, 2015.
Okay, and why did you leave CVS?
I violated policy.
What policy was that?
They give extra bucks, and I used a coupon that wasn't mine to purchase something. They considered it a loss for the store.
And they terminated you?
Yes, ma'am.
No further questions.
Hi.
Hello?
Did your driver's license ever suspended by DMV
Yeah,
because of,
the DUI.
and when was it?
The DUI was in 95.
1905. So ever since that, have you ever drink and drive?
No,
Okay. Because you mentioned that you're married, you have kids, but I
Yes.
just want to know that if you do need the car to drive and you do need to support the family, anything you do to violate the law would endanger that part. So do you fully understand that?
yeah.
Okay. So what would you ensure that the board, that you won't drink or drive or you do anything in violation of the law
Well, it's
in the
been
future?
21 years since I got that ticket.
Okay.
Okay, I haven't gotten I've had the suspended license, but that was because I had things I needed to do. I was going to work. One, I got caught. And the other 2 times I was taking my kids to school.
Okay.
And,
So
that's pretty much and the only reason why I would drive, because I had to go to work. Or I had
that's
to-
all in the past?
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I have no questions. Thank you for appearing here.
Thanks.
I have a couple. Who drives your kids to school now?
Well, walking distance, and one takes the bus, goes to college.
Okay, so you're not currently driving without a license?
No,
And you don't currently own a car?
no.
Okay. Have you tried to, you mentioned that you stopped working at Walmart because of, you were not showing up because of illnesses?
Yes.
And are you able to work now with
Yeah,
with those
it's
illnesses?
controlled now. I was, medication out up here and all, colchicine,
And what is this for?
gout, and then
Gout.
I take Plaquenil for sarcoidosis.
Did you mention sarcoidosis
Yes.
also? How long have you had that?
2013.
And you're still being treated for it?
Yeah, it's forever, they said.
Okay. Thank you, that's it.
So you haven't worked since October 2015?
No, I've worked. I've had like part-time jobs, temp jobs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've worked.
So you're able to work?
Yeah, I'm able to work. I've had temporary jobs, but those assignments ended. One just ended 2 weeks ago.
Have they been in the pharmacy as a
No.
pharmacy clerk? or-
No.
Okay.
CVS don't let you do that no more, so no clerks at CVS.
Yes. You testified earlier that you picked up methamphetamine for your brother.
Yes,
Did you pick it up from a drug dealer?
yes,
And were you a pharmacy technician at the time you picked up
Yes.
the meth from a drug dealer? And you also testified that you were terminated from CVS, I believe, for impermissibly using a coupon. Were you fired from any other employment positions
from Walmart.
besides Walmart and CVS?
No,
No further questions.
Okay, in that case, Ms. Kellogg, would you like to provide a closing?
Yes. It appears as though petitioner was untruthful in his petition. He was fired for dishonest acts at CVS. He has not provided the board with any evidence of drug rehabilitation and strongly denies taking drugs. He illegally picked up methamphetamine from a drug dealer while he was a pharmacy technician, pharmacy tech. And petitioner has evidenced a failure to adhere to laws and regulations and exercise good judgment when he was convicted of driving under the influence, convicted of driving on a suspended license 3 times, and illegally possessed methamphetamine. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Would you like to provide a closing statement?
I'd just like to say, I was truthful in all my statements. And I didn't do any more drug things, because I don't have a drug problem. I don't have a drinking problem. I was truthful and honest. Yes, I messed up and I drove without a license, but because I had to, I had no other choice. That's all gonna be fixed next month. I'll get my license next month. But that's all I got to say.
Okay. All right, so as with before, I want to let you know how this proceeds from this point. The board will meet in closed session later today to vote on the petition, and at that point, I will actually draft a decision, which will be provided 30 days later, and at some point thereafter, you will receive the final decision from the board, okay?
All right.
Thank you very much, and with that, the matter is submitted and the record is closed.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we'll go into closed session to discuss the disciplinary matters, and then we'll reopen once that's concluded. Comments for items not on the agenda and agenda items for future meetings in case we missed anyone this morning. Does anyone have any public comments for items not on the agenda? Okay, if not, we'll move on to item 6, planning discussions for future stakeholders meeting regarding the final rule implementing section 1557 of the Affordable Care Act regarding non-discrimination in health programs and activities, specifically including its impact on pharmacy translations and interpretations. So at the September 2016 Communication and Public Ed Committee meeting, the committee discussed a new rule. Oh, is that Stan?
That's mine.
Oh, it's yours. Okay, Committee and Public Education, okay. Victor, you want to talk about this one?
Thank you. Well, we had our meeting last month. But anyway, let me give you a little brief history about this new ruling. The background is, at the September 2016, the Communication and Public Education Committee meeting, the committee discussed a new rule issued by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services that requires pharmacies to provide meaningful access to customers with limited English proficiency. Now, this rule includes posting taglines written in at least 15 languages, advising the public that interpreters and translation services are available free of charge. Further, the regulation implements Section 1557 of the Affordable Care Act, which forbids discrimination in health care on the basis of race, color, national origin, age, disability, and sex. The rule went into effect on July 18, 2016, and a copy of the board's draft newsletter article on this requirement, the APHA summary documents, and the federal rule itself are included in Attachment 1. So during the committee meetings, the members discussed this new rule and how it impacts California law. Now, the members, I do have 2 members, Ryan and Debbie, on the committee. So we discussed this new rule and how it impacts the California law. So we focus on this topic would be appropriate. So the committee would provide stakeholders with the opportunity to discuss efforts to implement the provisions, and also an opportunity to discuss changes that may be necessary to California law, and provide the board an opportunity to help facilitate implementation through information sharing and education. So the committee is seeking guidance from this board about this issue, including if a dedicated meeting is appropriate, or if so, preference is for how and when such a meeting should be convened. So, so because this new ruling would preempt a lot of these California laws that we implemented today's regarding translation labels and also all the posters. So we need to know how the board members feel and how we guys should proceed.
Madam President,
Yes, Dan.
this is a pretty significant deal.
Yeah.
And
Surprise.
I was just almost overwhelmed while I was reading it as to what the expectations are for pharmacists all over the country now. We have tried to keep the public well-informed and make sure that there's translation services available. But when you look at these regs, I mean, they're really drilling down into what their expectations should be, what they are with regards to the quality of interpretations and interpreters and the notices. And, I mean, above and beyond all that, it preempts Section 1707.6.
So is this something that we can have the Communication and Public Ed Committee review in detail and provide some some recommendations for any regulatory changes that we need to take in response?
We could, but it's a big thing too, because it involves a lot of the current laws that we're trying to enforce.
Yeah, I think our thought is that it was maybe more than the committee can handle, and that we really needed to have stakeholders kind of get in a room and have, stakeholders bring to us and present to us maybe some of their solutions, instead of us trying to figure out solutions where maybe we aren't experts.
So you're talking about maybe a
Kind of a
forum or
forum,
something
yeah.
on this?
And so I think, Victor, I think our quandary was, do we attach it to a Board of Pharmacy meeting? Perhaps do it as, because we would love to do it as soon as October. This law is passed, it's, the ship has sailed. And so we need to kind of, make some decisions, because it will impact our regs. So we would love to somehow attach it to October. So we kind of wanted to float that idea out there.
Like an extra day?
An extra day, or maybe if October is not super busy, maybe we could do like a half a day. But whether it be like and maybe we don't need a whole day, Victor, maybe like 4 hours, but maybe like, so either like 4 hours, like the afternoon of the day before, if we have enough for the 2-day meeting. If we don't have enough for the 2-day meeting, maybe like a half of one of the days of the 2-day meeting. So we kind of really wanted to get the feedback from the board to make sure that you're invested and agree to that point. Victor, did I?
You said it very well.
So, question, is APHA doing anything to come up with recommendations on compliance?
I don't know the answer to that. I know of one chain that is going to be ready by the actual implementation date, which is October 18th, but I know that a lot of other entities are not. In California, because we've had the interpreter services requirement on the books for so long, there was a thought, I've talked to CPHA about that, and they seem to think that it would be a straightforward process to expand from the current 10 to go to the 15. Now, we're going to have to identify the 15 apparently, so
Yeah.
even that is going to have to be a process. But that was readily achievable, more or less. But the translation piece, you don't want people going to Google Translator and just putting in a phrase. There was a trial done during our board meeting where Victor got some Chinese off of Google Translation that Ryan had prepared for him, and Victor took one look and said it was incorrect. Well, that's pretty serious when you're giving a direction for how to take a drug.
Do we have ability to use the resources that we used previously to expand some of those, once we identify the languages?
Well, the unique thing that we have about the
endowment,
languages,
right?
we've got the endowment actually vetted, I think, through $300,000 or $400,000. I don't remember the amount. They went into the community, and it took a long time to vet those. I don't think we can do that again. But we can use the interpreter or the translators that are available through the department. There's certified, there are going to be a shortage of certified translators because this is not just pharmacy that's affected with this. But we could go through there once we decide, what are we talking about when we're talking about, what was the term they used? Slogans or something? They had taglines. Yeah, and that could be anything. That could be your directions for use. That could be talk to a pharmacist. That could be I want consultation. There's any number of other things that could be. And so I don't even know how we identify what the taglines are.
Well, why don't we see if there's someone, CPHA here, or someone that can give us
CPHA.
some information.
CRA's here.
On what's happening in the industry right now, just from the stakeholder point of view. Yeah, microphone, thank you.
Me?
No,
Oh.
me.
Oh.
Unusual.
Hey, I thought it was nice and loud. It's right here.
Good afternoon, Brian Warren with CPHA. Actually, we need to check in more with APHA to find out what their guidelines are here. And I know that, as Ginny mentioned, we did discuss this recently. We're just now starting to look into it.
Yeah, because I noticed there was actual mention of APHA in the document. That's why I asked about that.
Yeah, I know at our meeting, we, we kind of asked the audience, not that we had a huge audience at that meeting, but, it seemed like what we needed to do was to have a stakeholder meeting, specifically ask people to come, to share what they're doing. And I think we even kind of bounced around, we might not be able to have 15 languages up on our website now for the specific translations, so we probably need to, review some of our regs that are going to be impacted by this, and I think the staff is maybe looking at that.
We have a statutory provision that we're gonna have to amend. We also have some regulations we have to amend. The only good thing we've got going for us right now is with respect to our website, you can sign on and click on whatever language you want to view the whole website in, and it moves it into that language. So-
Well, but that's maybe the Google Translate too, so, that we just said.
Don't ask a question you don't want to know the
Yeah.
answer to, I suppose. But this is really important to make sure that we do this right, and there's a lot of pieces to it. We're going to affect a lot of people. And I think what the committee wanted was an assessment of where everyone is with respect to moving towards this provision that really had low publicity
Well,
prior
I
to
think what the
this.
committee wants from the board today is thumbs up, yep, you guys are on the right road. We should do a little forum. Do we want to, are we of the mood that we want to attach it to the board meeting, or try to make it part of the board meeting, or do we want to have some, random date out there? We would like to have it as part of the board meeting so the whole board can experience it, or at least as many people as can attend as possible. But if that is overwhelming to, be looking at 2.5 or 3 days at the end of October, then we will pick another date and just hope that as many board members that can attend as possible.
So Debbie, I have a question, and maybe if you know the answer to this, but a lot of these federal non-discrimination regulations are imposed by a lot of health plans and PBMs. They follow the regulations anyway, regardless of what we do. Is anyone, or maybe the public, maybe aware of any actions on that part in terms of, like, you have to screen employees to make sure that they have not been, have identified findings, but there's a lot that's already available, and this is not a state reg, this is a federal reg.
Right.
So there must be already undergoing, I'm sure large organizations are undergoing ways to adhere.
Well, so what we heard at the meeting, Victor, I don't mean to speak over you. What we heard at the meeting was that this had come down very fast within federal.
It was in the ACA, it was in the Affordable Care Act, but it was a provision that no one paid any attention to amidst all the other provisions that were in there.
The sense we received at our committee meeting was that we're not really sure people are super prepared. We think that people are getting prepared, and that's why we kind of felt like, let's kind of ride their, ride the sled with them to kind of figure out where we are.
Madam President?
Yes.
Given the requirement for more things to be posted in a pharmacy, might this be an opportunity for the Communication and Public Ed Committee to look at all of the posting requirements that the board has established over the years? Because it seems to me that we're going to be able to walk into a pharmacy, and it's just going to be so cluttered with notices hither and yon. An entrepreneur ought to take wallpaper and make wallpaper with all our notices on it, and they just wallpaper every pharmacy.
Yeah,
the
Stan,
point
I
is
think
that
I think that is our goal.
Good.
It was our goal before we even hit this thing.
Yeah.
Because we think that there's because actually, we were talking at our meeting about, point to your language and all that stuff. Like, we were trying to figure out, how do we do this better?
Yeah.
And so this just adds, a pile on the top.
Oh,
of it.
good, thank you.
So also, Ginny, if this is already federal requirement, we don't have to duplicate it in our regs. It's only the sections where there's a crossover
Right.
with our regulations, because they would still have to comply with us.
It's a more stringent one, and it can be easily linked to reimbursement. Let's call it for what it is.
Right.
And so if you quit reimbursing individuals because they're not providing the language services, that'll probably get changed faster than anything we're likely to do here. But with that being said, we have some regs now that are outdated. We need to fix those and at least make them compliant with the federal law. And if we don't, just outright eliminate them. And we've got some statutory modifications we're going to have to do as well to conform. Our Ting bill from 2 years ago, that is going to require some substantial modification.
But that's work that can be done at the committee level.
Right.
With the communication
That-
and public ed.
Absolutely.
And which bill from 2 years ago?
The translation,
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I think, to kind of bring this to closure, I think the committee would like the meeting to happen at our next board meeting, in conjunction with the next board meeting, unless the board is not in favor of that.
Can staff accommodate us?
We'll do what we need to do here. That isn't the issue. But that is the meeting that backs up to CSHP that runs Thursday, Friday, whatever. And our meetings usually run Wednesday, Thursday. So if we're going to add a half-day
It
session,
has to be on the
it would have to be
beginning.
on
Do we
Tuesday.
have to do it in conjunction with the meeting, or we could do it another day that month? I mean, it doesn't have to be that same time.
a separate one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could.
Maybe Southern Cal?
We don't have to fly 50 miles.
Most of you are in Southern Cal, if you look around.
Yeah, I mean,
the
I think
room.
that's gonna be Southern
I
California.
think our goal is to get as many stakeholders as we can, and also we would like to have the board here. We don't really want it to be just the public ed meeting, we kind of want it to be more of the board, because we think this is going to be more encompassing.
Since it's almost October 1 now, how about if we do it in November and mid-November?
It's a good idea.
We'll just do it, we'll plan a
But I-
one-day,
but I-
and we'll look at it down here. We'll have time to do our homework. Maybe we'll be able to get some stakeholders that can come in and talk a little more about it, and pull in some national players so that we have a real good dialogue. And we'll bring in some insurance companies, that was a good idea.
No, and I actually really like your suggestion of bringing in some experts that are actually dealing with this, so that we can get some guidance as well, rather than just relying on the public comments.
Other boards of pharmacy aren't involved in it, I will tell you that.
And you were going to check with, well, you just said,
I was at NABP and
Yeah.
I was at FDA.
and what did NAB, because I know you were going to try to push it at NABP,
That's actually in 2 more weeks.
okay.
But no one, but those that I asked, frankly, no one knows about it.
Really?
And you know how I found out? I had one of the chain stores talk to me about it. That's how I found out.
I think APHA has issued it, though. I think I've seen it from them.
Well, we need to get all in on this one.
Yeah.
So, I do want to offer just one tiny piece of clarification, and I think I mentioned it at the committee meeting as well. But the rule technically doesn't apply to all pharmacies. The rule applies to all pharmacies who receive funding under the ACA. So
Right.
to the extent that basically everybody's getting, federal funding, they're going to have to comply. But
But that gets at a single standard of care in
Right.
California. We don't want one if you're federal and one if you're reimbursed
Right.
by someone else. That just is
Or
chaos.
cash, but yeah.
And there might be very good public policy reasons to do that as well. But
I think
just
most
don't wanna-
would qualify anyway, because I think most retail pharmacies do in some way deal with the Medicaid program or
Right.
CMS Part D.
Yeah. And-
Do, so-
and actually,
So do you need some kind of action? I beg your
Go
pardon.
ahead. That's why we need,
Would you like some kind of
Yeah.
action?
What do you need from us, Victor?
Did we have a motion coming out of the committee? No, we
No,
didn't.
we did not.
no, we don't, so.
Just the direction.
Yeah, we were just-
Just a direction, that's, I don't want a motion. Just
Okay. Do you want to
direction
make a
what to do.
motion, Stan?
Well, is it preferable for something in November?
I think that would be better.
Personally,
to
I think
arrange-
it better.
to arrange for
October is
people to
kind of a
come.
mess.
Well, I certainly,
And maybe don't pin us down to a specific month, but how about in the next 6 to 8 weeks or something like that?
Or sometime in the, before the
well,
end of the year.
go ahead, you do it.
Before the end of the year, how about that?
But Amy,
Well, I don't know
It-
if we need a motion.
but it
because I think we were
took
just looking for
effect
direction.
July, and we have 90 days, we have to post the tag lines on the pharmacies. You have 90 days, you need to comply, at least minimum 2 languages
The
is in
way I
federal
look
law.
at this, Victor, is if you're implicated by this, you're gonna,
Implicated.
I mean, if you're covered, as what Laura said, if you're receiving the funding, you're gonna have to do it anyway, regardless of whether we do anything or not.
Right.
So I think that the.
superfluous if we do
Yeah, I mean, I would only think that we should focus on the things where it impacts our regulations, because we don't want to rewrite federal regs.
No, I'm talking about the signs, because if the pharmacies need to post up the sign, and we're talking about the state board required them post up certain signs, you don't want, like Stan said, all kinds of sign over everywhere in the
But
pharmacy.
that's gonna, you know,
That's a long process.
yeah, that's a longer process.
So we're
to
thinking
do.
about consolidate all this, so how we could plan to have the correct signs from the board.
Why don't you make the motion, Debbie, since
Do
you.
we feel like we need a motion?
I only have one clarifying question. Set it up as a board meeting, but if we can't get quorum, we'll just go with it as a committee of the
Committee
board.
meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or
that
a
would-
hearing of the board, just.
That would do.
Okay.
That would do.
So I would propose that we set up a hearing of the board to occur preferably before the end of the year, in order to address, and I just switched
A forum.
a forum,
Right, so up here, it's this, this one.
to address the implementation, the final rule regarding Section 1557 of the Affordable Care Act regarding non-discrimination health programs and activities, specifically including its impact on the pharmacy translation interpreters
I
and
second.
other regulations and statutes as we feel are applicable.
Second, or second, good.
Okay, any public comment?
Steve Gray from Kaiser Permanente. This, it's my understanding that this has caught a lot of people by surprise throughout the healthcare industry. I would suggest also that besides doing what you're going to do, what the motion was, you check with the medical board to see what they're going to do. You check with other licensing boards and the Department of Health plans, et cetera. But also, just as far, I think the motion is good because it says it's general. It says before the end of the year. And besides the conflict with Seminar, which would take away people, also in the week of November 8th through the 14th is the national meeting of the American Society for Pharmacy Law. And this will be discussed there. And I wouldn't want to have to make a choice. But yes, it will. Maybe not.
It's not on the agenda.
It's not on the agenda, but it will be discussed, just like it was discussed at the NABP meeting in Portland among the people, because that's where very many of the pharmacy compliance people meet and discuss and say, well, what are you going to do? What are they doing in Texas, et cetera. So I would suggest not doing it during that week also, and pick a different time other than between the 8th and the 14th of November, is my comment. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Hello?
Hi, Paige Talley with the California Council for the Advancement of Pharmacy. I just have a question. If typically you webcast board meetings, and if this is a subcommittee of the board, will you still webcast it?
Generally, we don't. It depends on the availability, the date we pick, and the other meetings that are going on. The department can't cover all committee meetings, so that is one of the things we'll explore depending on once we settle on a date and where it's going to be.
Great, thank you.
And Paige, hopefully it will be the full board. I mean,
Yeah, I hope so too.
But if not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? If not, all those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Okay. All right, moving on to item 7, discussion and consideration of proposed regulations to add Title 16 CCR Sections 1776 related to prescription drug take-back. So this has been a longstanding issue with at board meetings. There's a history that's listed in the background that talks about all of the public comment periods, as well as the dates that the different versions have been, the different drafts have been circulated. At this meeting, we'll have an opportunity to discuss the future of the regulation and determine what course of action the board wishes to pursue. 2 drafts of the language have been provided in their attachment 1 to the packet, as well as a listing of the comments received. Attachment 1, the draft 1, contains the modified text that we approved at the July 2016 board meeting. Draft 2 is the clean version of the modified text that was approved at the July 2016 board meeting without the strikeouts and underlining to make it a little easier to read. Also included is a compilation document of the comments received during the 15-day comment period, and then the comments received during the 15-day comment period. Now, was this, Lori, was this your reg, or was, were you working on this one? Yeah. Do you want to come up and give us a summary of where, of the public comments that were received, so that we can go over those, if you wouldn't mind?
Okay, so in the packet is all the comments listed in the Excel kind of spreadsheet, along with staff recommendations. There's certain ones they're mainly focused on like the sharps, whether or not they're going to be allowed in the drug take back, and that was more of a policy decision for the board.
Maybe we should take them just by section, just to look at them. So, under 1776, we had one comment from Douglas Barkon. And he's recommending that we add mail back to the second paragraph so that they're not excluded.
And what?
So that they're not excluded.
Sharps?
No, he says mail back.
Oh, mailback.
Mailback envelopes.
Whether we should add that in there or not.
That had been in there and the board removed it in a prior iteration because you do not have to be registered as a collector to distribute mailback.
Right.
Okay, so we're going to reject is the staff recommendations.
Not gonna,
1776.1C, again, Douglas Barkon, which is spelling correction, right, Lori?
Yes.
And we are going to accept
Correct
it.
the spelling.
All right. So go ahead, Lori, you want to do 1776.1E?
Okay, this is the main comment was more about the sharps, that DOT doesn't require that it be removed. It's mainly related to the EpiPens.
well, it looks like very few people are gonna using them.
So they're saying that we should remove the
Dan.
reference to sharps and needles?
Or add an exemption.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They'll be using the generic.
Can I raise one issue about this? So the board has a statute, section 4146, that specifically says a pharmacy may accept the return of needles and syringes from the public if contained in a sharps container, as defined in section 117,750 of the Health and Safety Code. So I'm concerned that if you allow it in the reg,
No conflict.
that there's a conflict with the statutory provision of 4146.
But I kind of see this as different because when I read this, I'm saying that you're not going to stick in an individual syringe or needle in there. That's what I'm reading this as. While what you're referring to is in a sharps container, so it's already, so that the public health risk and the employee risk is less if it's already in a container and it's provided, rather than my just bringing my bag of used syringes and just dropping it in there, because then that would impact those that are going to take the bag out, and it's not going to be a replacement for that. I don't know, the other board members, what you think about that? Because, if you don't have that, are we just going to stick these needles in with the drugs, and the pharmacies are going to be subject to that? Because we heard that was a big issue with some of the law enforcement that's doing this.
Okay, now I'm a little
I
confused.
don't know what we can do about
Aren't you
that.
guys, aren't you actually agreeing? Is that what you're saying, you don't want sharps in there?
Yeah.
Right,
And
so I'm
aren't
saying
you
keep
saying
this
that we
in
don't
here.
want sharps in there?
I'm saying that allowing sharps in the take-back collection bin could conflict with 4146
Oh, got it. Oh,
unless
so
the
we agree.
take-back
Yeah, so you
collection
agree.
bin is a sharps.
So we're
Very
gonna,
good.
we're gonna reject this recommendation, right?
Right.
Okay, sorry, Laura, you're right, we're in agreement.
I have received information about the EpiPen from the Department of Public Health, in that if those are thrown into a location that is going to be incinerated, there's an explosive hazard. I'm passing on information. I recognize it's a risk, but I don't know how you prevent them from coming in there. Pardon me?
What's gonna explode?
Apparently, the liquid gets hot and something pops.
Epinephrine?
It might, is it under pressure?
No, not really. Oh, maybe it is in those new injectors. I don't know.
But
That's what caused it to go up $600.
Thank you. Thank you for that explanation. I feel better.
Now
It's
it
been
all
a
makes
mystery.
sense.
It's been
But
a
anyway,
mystery.
I needed to pass that on. I got that email yesterday, so.
So the next three, Lori, are just dealing with that same mailback
Yes,
recommendation that we've said we are gonna reject.
correct.
And we also had a statute that was passed. Laura, I understand you've got a copy of the bill. Is there anything in there that deals with sharps? This is legislation that Senator Hannah Beth Jackson authored, and the board had a support position on it.
Right, so this is SB 1229, and it is now Chapter 238 of the statutes of 2016. And it's the provision that basically creates for those pharmacies that operate collection bins, it establishes minimum standards, and then if the pharmacy operates consistent with those minimum standards, it grants them a certain degree of immunity from liability.
From
So,
criminal
from
or
criminal
civil-
or civil liability.
Not administrative law, though.
Right, right. So the minimum standards that are going to be imposed on, through that have to do, some of the pieces go a little bit beyond what our reg does, like they require notification of the law enforcement. And I do believe, I'm looking for the provision that was about specifically about the sharps. I do think that there's one piece in here that talks about it. I'm looking for it, sorry. I looked at it for more general conflict
I'm
with
sorry,
the,
that
with
was-
the
I know that
reg,
was
so.
an out in left field question, but.
If you have it, let me speak up, don't.
I
wait for me to
understand
find
you
it.
have, do you want to go on? while she's-
Yeah, let's go
Yeah,
on.
why don't you move on?
So the next one from City of Santa Rosa, Lori?
I was a little confused by what they were asking because they're identifying an incorrect section. But they're saying that it's unclear why only pharmacies can distribute mail-back envelopes in a nursing facility. I think what they're trying to say is that a skilled nursing facility could work with others, like law enforcement, to do mail-back. I believe that's what they're referring to.
I don't see why a nursing facility under its own recognizant couldn't do that independently of anything that would be in the Board of Pharmacy regs. We control the collection bin because the federal law does that, but we don't regulate skilled nursing facilities.
They can do what they want.
So, is this the,
I think that's a preference.
is this the comment that is the one that, I apologize, I don't want to not do one thing and then the other, but I think, is this the skilled nursing facility that allows the skilled nursing facility to drop the drugs in the
This is
bin?
no mailbag.
This is the
No
mailback
mailback.
provision, and there are some provisions in the reg that deal with it.
Right, because there was a comment, I think, that spoke to the ability of the skilled nursing staff being able to drop, they're the, I think, the single exception to the person in the healthcare stream with regard to the take-back bin that can actually accept the drugs and deposit it.
But there's also a
That's not the
requirement
provision
that
you're
they
talking
know,
about?
that they know that the drugs have been sent for storage in an envelope so that we don't have drugs missing out of a skilled nursing facility.
Right.
So,
Okay, I just want to make sure I didn't,
So this is the wrong section, right, Lori?
Yeah,
Because, I mean, I'm
it's the
looking
wrong-
at
yeah, it's the-
1776I,
yeah, it's the
and
wrong
it
section,
doesn't say anything about
Okay.
services
Right.
on there.
okay, sorry.
So we're going to reject that one.
Right.
Okay, the next one's again, mailback again.
It gets back, yeah, we rejected all
Yeah.
of those other.
Yeah.
So San Francisco Department of Environment, 1776.1K.
Yeah, they're asking that this section be removed because if they cannot comply with the DEA, then they cannot do controlled substance drug take-back.
Right. We've had some significant discussion on that one
Yeah.
before.
We're gonna leave it as it
Yes.
is.
All right, City of Santa Rosa, same thing. Kaiser also.
This one's a little bit different. This is more of a policy decision for the board. The way it's worded, we have it listed as drug take-back services, which includes collection receptacles and the mail back, and they're requesting that it be changed to collection receptacles only.
Right, we had that, I think that's the same thing the City of Santa Rosa is saying.
Yeah.
As well. I mean, we had that discussion at this last board meeting.
Yeah.
So what does the board want to do with this? I mean, I remember I made an argument that I don't believe handing out envelopes is in any way a public risk. So I felt that we should have kept it to just collection receptacles, but I believe the rest of the board did not agree. So what is
that
your,
is correct.
what is your feeling? Because I don't know how we
Let's
can.
leave it as it is.
Yeah, I think we need
Yeah,
You want to leave it as it is?
Yeah,
We basically don't agree with
yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
That was.
I agree with Kaiser and City of Santa
And I think
Rosa.
I think she's still carrying that with her.
She did do a gentle pass.
Yes.
I'll run this one more time.
No, and it just comes from, I mean, our role is public protection. And anything we put in here, if we're going to put a requirement in, it's for public protection. Okay.
Thank you.
So we're going to keep that the same. So going on to 1776.2C.
The commenter requested that the language be added back in, but the language is in there saying that the envelopes need to be postage paid. So we can reject the comment.
Okay.
Okay, and then City of Santa Rosa, 76.3B.
They expressed concern, well, there's 1776.3 is the first one. They're expressing concern that its statement says it shall be locked at all times. They said it could be misunderstood that the actual opening where you deposit the drugs should be locked at all times, not the actual receptacle.
I think our language is fine the way it is.
Okay, so the staff recommends reject. Okay, 76.3B, Fred Mayer, requested clarification as to who the DA that looks like an educational thing. I don't think that's a comment, is it? It's a comment, it's not.
That's a question, yeah.
Yeah, it's a
not.
question that shouldn't be, okay.
There was one more Santa Rosa comment.
Okay.
Indicates it's confusing to have the stipulation for emergency area in this section when it only applies to section C.
1776.3B.
Pharmacies may have an emergency exit door with no location.
Oh, yeah, I remember the comment.
Yeah, so we're good. I think we're good in there.
Okay. Moving on to San Francisco Department of Environment.
So, I'm sorry, so you're fine with accepting that? Is that what I heard?
We accept the reject.
They
Okay.
rejected the
Yeah,
comment
yeah.
because pharmacies have frequently an emergency door in the back.
Okay.
So 76.3B, Department of Environment, commenter indicated that it's confusing to have a stipulation for.
It's the same comment, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, same thing.
Same thing. What about collection receptacle being locked when the responsible pharmacy is closed in a hospital? 76.3C.
And this is a CFR requirement.
Wait, which one are we talking about?
City of Santa Rosa, Laura, 76.3C. Commenter expressed concern about the collection receptacle being locked when the responsible pharmacy is closed in a hospital. They indicated this will imply flexibility. I thought we talked about this last month.
Okay,
Yeah, we
so
did.
this one I do actually have feedback on, and I think unfortunately we missed deleting that sentence. Because the way that I read the reg and the discussion that we had is that it requires that it be closed if the employees of the registrant aren't present. But what we learned during the conversation about the hospitals is that in a hospital setting, the registrant is the hospital, not the pharmacy. And so unlike in a pharmacy setting, and we'll get to that in a moment, I actually think we should have deleted this sentence.
But I think we did make that change, because as I'm reading it right now, it says, in hospitals or clinics with a pharmacy on the premises, the collection receptacle must be located in an area that is regularly monitored by pharmacy or DEA registrant employees. So I thought we modified that to address it.
It's the next sentence that's the problem, I think.
When the responsible pharmacy is closed, the collection receptacle, okay, so we just need to delete that second sentence?
I think what we need to do is mirror the language of the federal reg, which basically says if there's no employee of the registrant. And so we could monitor, if it's
When
not
there
being.
is.
When there is, no monitoring available, the collection receptacle shall be made inaccessible. I think that's what the language of the reg is.
When there is no monitoring.
No staff, no pharmacy or DEA registrant. I think we need to be very specific.
I thought it was a registrant employee.
That's what we talked about.
The-
But we've got also the pharmacy itself could also be responsible.
Yeah, so, I think we can mirror that same opening language that's in sub C, so the pharmacy or DEA registrant employees are not present. I think that's what the reg says. It's 1317.75 sub F. There's
There's also a provision in 1229 about this.
About
What
the
does
monitoring.
1229 say then?
It says ensures that public access to the secure drug take-back bin is limited to the hours in which employees of the registered collector are present and able to monitor the
That's pretty
operation
specific.
of the secure drug take-back.
So if we blend it, when there is no pharmacy or DEA registrant employees available, the collection receptacle shall be locked so the drugs may not be deposited. How about that?
Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we can we can change that and say that we're going to accept it, and we modified the language.
Let me change it just a little more. When there, I think we need to retain the responsible pharmacy is closed in too, so it'll read, when the responsible pharmacy is closed or there is no pharmacist or DEA registrant employee available. the
What do we,
collection-
well, we don't have to say pharmacist closed, because if the pharmacy's closed, there's not going to be a pharmacist there, right? Because you have to have a pharmacist to open the pharmacy.
Except there could be a pharmacist somewhere else in the
N-
hospital
but
that's not
No,
assigned to.
it's the pharmacy closed that's the problem, because the way the DEA
All right, so I was right the
reg
first
says-
time. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
it has, the employee of the DEA registrant. And so for a hospital, the analysis is the people that are in the hospital have, or the policy that I would suggest is that there are people there that know what to do if the drugs go missing, or if somebody gets into it, or there's tampering.
Okay.
Or that.
So we'll keep your original language that you just
Yeah,
revised.
yeah.
Okay.
When there is no pharmacy.
And the next one from City of Santa Rosa is the same thing, right?
Right.
When there is no, I think what.
No, in this one-
Pharmacy or DEA employee,
No,
registrant employees.
What I read them saying here is that they want the receptacles to be open in independent pharmacies, even if the pharmacy's closed.
Right.
Which we can't do.
I do think that's a.
Violation.
That's a
more of
violation, yeah.
concern, because it has to be the employee of the licensee, and in this
Now,
case,
that-
when
that's
it's a
Santa
pharmacy.
Rosa?
Yeah.
That is on D.
D.
3D.
Yeah, D isn't on,
It's the
right?
second Santa Rosa one, Stan,
Yeah,
on that page.
And
yeah.
And also Alameda County
Alameda also,
Yeah.
yeah.
and San Francisco Department.
And the explanation for that is that in this case, for a retail pharmacy, the pharmacy itself is the licensee, not the entire store. So the employee has to be the employee of a pharmacy. So when they, and
Yeah,
therefore.
we've talked about that one at great length.
Closing,
Yeah.
right, the closing of the,
So the next one, I see that these others are similar. Department of Environment, Alameda County. The next one's Kaiser. They are objecting to the word slot. They want us to change that term because it implies that it's too small, a small opening.
But don't we want a small openings? We don't want people
Yeah.
to be able to put their arm in or whatever.
Yeah, that's
So
that's a
it, and
definition.
this is actually something that you might be actually able to modify to make it match the very first sentence. So the first sentence says, includes a small opening, and the pharmacy shall lock the deposit slot in the next. So my guess is that you can probably make those
Small opening.
small opening in both.
Is
Yeah,
there a
just
need
to
to
be
do that?
consistent.
Would that be unclear? I mean, that would be a, is
Or
that a
the
15-day notice,
deposit,
or is that
maybe
a?
the deposit opening. I don't think that's a substantive change, but if you have to make the other change, you're gonna trigger a
Probably. The
15
other
day.
one was
The
probably
other
gonna
one
be a
will,
So if we're gonna
yeah.
make, so that's
So-
gonna 15 days, we're gonna clean it up. we should-
Small opening slot.
Oh.
It seems like we're cutting hairs here.
I agree,
I mean,
It's all up to,
Yeah.
it's subjective.
It is. I think small opening is fine.
But so take out the where it says slot and we'll just.
Small opening.
Well, the way it reads now is small opening.
and
So
then
up
the
above
slots
it
in the
says
next
slot.
sentence.
Or down below.
Well, you can make it in the
So we're
deposit,
just saying make it
deposit
small
opening.
with spots.
Or
I think Laura's
deposit
recommending
opening.
deposit opening, which is actually a good idea. Just replace the word slot and just put opening. Because we already say it's small right above it.
And it's the opening that allows deposit, so it's already got, yeah.
All right, the next one, San Francisco, oh no, that's the next one. Douglas Barkon, ASTM bag requirement. And we're recommending, staff recommending reject it.
Yeah.
We have had great length of discussion about what kind of liner and what it needs to be made out of. during various, over the last year, this has been one of the predominant subjects we had until we settled on what we've got.
Okay, the next one's from Kaiser regarding adding manually or with a tool to the end of the section.
I accept that
think-
recommendation.
Isn't that just too,
Specific, yeah.
To reject.
yeah, because then what are you gonna say, everything that you're gonna list
Yeah.
every item that you can use to remove deposited
Yeah.
drugs?
That's
If this
crazy.
becomes a problem, in all seriousness, if this becomes a problem, I think maybe then we go in and do an
Thank
amendment, but
you.
at this point, oh my.
Okay, so we're gonna reject that one. Okay, City of Santa Rosa, H. Tight-fitting covers, and it would exclude the use of corrugated fiber boards. Ginny, you're the expert on that. What do you think?
Well, I can tell you that DOT is working with the DEA and the Office of White House Drug Policy, I believe, is the third agency. There's three of them that are working together. I think that we ought to retain some flexibility here. There is a box that's made out of heavy-duty cardboard that supposedly DOT is comfortable with. And the way that we worded it was, we just referred back to the DOT regs. Tight fitting, if you have a box with a lid that closes, that's suitable for being shipped, I'd say that was tight fitting.
Another definition. Okay.
I mean, to me, they won't let you ship things unless the box is tight fitted, because otherwise things are gonna fall out of it. That's what the goal is to prevent that from occurring.
Everyone okay with that?
This is the one area of the reg where they're still doing some additional amplification.
We may have to come back and modify it later.
Yeah, down the road, yeah. But it keeps it,
All right, Alameda County, in terms of, then this is, we talked about DA registrant for the bin being available. Now they're saying, in terms of removing the liner, they want us to add DA registrant employees. But I don't think this doesn't refer just to the hospital, this refers to everything.
well, the DA registrant would be the pharmacy if it's a community pharmacy, so that would be
But a
accurate.
hospital,
Of a hospital, the DEA registrant, it could be arguably a pharmacy employee, right?
yeah. So, no, it could also be someone that works in our hospital. It could be a clerk, it could be anyone who works in the hospital. Do you want them removing the liner? I
No.
think is the issue.
I don't think the answer is to that one is yes.
I think we still want the pharmacy involved in the removal of the liner, right?
Wait, where are we? Sorry.
So we're gonna keep it the same and reject it, is that
Yes.
right?
Yes,
Okay.
so we're on doing 1776.3.
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I didn't.
Okay.
He wants to add PPE to protect staff from needles.
Although on I,
There's nothing to say they can't do that if the pharmacy desires.
I agree.
Yeah, if you add it, then it's required.
yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with the comment there. Can we go back up to 1776.3? I think it's I. My glasses are not reading very well. Recommend changing pharmacy employee to pharmacy or DEA registrant employee. Laura, you said that was a change we needed?
Well, based on what you said, no. If
No.
you don't
Yeah, we
want
just reject
the
it.
pharmacy, and if you don't want the hospital involved with removing the liner, then no, we don't want to make the
No,
change.
no, we actually want to reject that one.
Yeah, because otherwise,
Yeah.
where the liner's going, you've
Yeah.
lost control over the liners. That is a problem.
So that's the Alameda County hazardous waste.
Yeah.
Yes.
So- Okay. If we can we, it's not actually reflected, I think, in the table, but I saw it in one of the comments. The question on maybe we just haven't gotten to it, sub I, or sub H. So one of the, in the actual comment that was made, there's a comment about the distinction between tight fitting and in the second to last sentence, and the ceiling within the next provision, within sub I. Is, and the consistency of that. And then there's also a comment about deleting the "and be kept clean and good, and in good repair" in sub H. So
But
page.
that's rewriting a sentence that's making what's currently two sentences into one sentence.
Which comment are you on,
We're on
Laura?
H, we're right here, on H.
Oh, we went back to H? Okay.
Yes, yeah, sorry,
So these are, we're not
it's-
talking about the comments, we're doing other changes?
No,
there's
it's
comment
actually, it's a
expanded
comment, if you read the actual, you have the comments themselves, and if you read the actual comment, I think it went a little bit beyond what was reflected in the chart.
Oh, got it.
And so I did agree that there's a little bit of repetition there. I think it's a non-substantive change, but I just don't want, I wanted to kind of acknowledge it, the sort of the repeat of, within H, there's two places where it says the rigid container shall be kept clean and in good repair. So I would just delete probably the second one of those.
Okay.
I think if you delete that, don't you remove the sealed piece? Because I think the sealed is in the second sentence,
So-
not the first one. So you have to add the sealed into the first sentence.
So that's the question, is whether or not, well, my recommendation, at least partially, was just to remove the very end of the sentence, but to the extent that tight fitting and sealed, so tight fitting is the second to last sentence, or, excuse me, third to last, so rigid containers shall be leak resistant, have tight fitting covers, and be kept clean and in good repair. And then all rigid containers must meet standards of the U.S. Department of Transportation. And then the third sentence is the container shall be capable of being sealed and be kept clean and in good repair.
That's important, because once the liner goes into the rigid container, you don't want anybody to access the liner.
I'm not saying it's not appropriate. I think there's a little bit of redundancy. It's mostly clarification. I don't have a concern with the standard. I just want to be very clear.
Okay, so the question to the board is, do you want to take what's currently two sentences and mesh it into one?
Right. Do you want it to
wanna
be
leave it as
tight
it is?
fitting and sealed?
That's fine. I mean, if you think it sounds better, and we're already open to 15-day anyway, right?
Yeah.
Might as well.
So read this sentence, a rigid container may be disposable, reusable, or recyclable. Rigid containers shall be leak resistant, have tight fitting and sealed covers, is that what you're saying?
Sealable covers.
I think it's sealable.
And be kept clean and in good repair.
Right. And then all containers must meet US DOT, and then the last sentence goes away.
Okay.
Okay. Is that okay with everyone?
How many hands do we have?
Yeah.
It sounds kind of too much.
Run on?
And.
Too many hands, yeah. Can't we try to use common?
Can we bullet them or something?
Yeah, could we do? tight
Bullets aren't good
fitting?
in regs. Bullets aren't good in regs, because you have to be able to.
So tight fittings, comma, sealable covers, and be kept clean and in good repair? Give it a run.
Yeah, you can strike the
Yeah.
and there. There you go.
Are you happy?
I don't even think you have to do and be kept clean. You can comma, be kept clean, and just have the one hand after that.
Okay. All right, that was it for H, Laura?
Thank you. I appreciate you going back to that.
Okay, so we did I. And then there's San Francisco Department of Public Health on J, which is comment or express concern about the 14-day limitation and requested that it be changed to promptly.
I think, well,
We can't use promptly.
we
It's-
put 14 in to be clear.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to reject that one. M for San Francisco again. They requested the prohibition of sharps be removed as a DOT does not request separation for disposal or allow for preloaded. We already talked about that before. It's a repeat. All right, 76.4A, commenter requested the section be removed as a DA does not restrict who can distribute mail-back packages.
And this is the way that A is phrased. It says the pharmacy may allow skilled nursing facility employees to distribute mail-back envelopes. And they're pointing out that why is the pharmacy allowing it? Why does the pharmacy have to allow it?
Yeah, that's actually a good point, because they really don't. Yeah,
Let's just remove it.
let's remove it.
But again, keep in
wait.
mind, there has to be an inventory part of that, because you don't want drugs to suddenly purportedly be put into an envelope in a skilled nursing facility where they were disposed of without someone making a record of it. Because otherwise, you're gonna have drug diversion going out of the pharmacy.
Yeah, but that's
I
more
mean, out of a
than, that's
skilled
more
nursing
than just
facility.
handing out the envelope, so the
Okay,
pharmacy's
no,
still gonna
yeah, I
have
agree,
oversight.
I agree, just,
Didn't we go through this? Isn't one of the one of the DEA regulation pieces specifically allows individuals in possession, lawfully in possession, to distribute, and it's specific to skilled nursing facilities. The healthcare providers, this is what I was thought we were talking about earlier. I'm a little concerned about deleting it because I think part of the federal reg allows the
Employees to do that.
employee of the skilled nursing facility to do something a pharmacy employee cannot do, which is to take a drug and put it in the collection bin. Do you see what I'm saying? So I want to be careful we don't get out of that.
I think you lost your audience
I
somehow
did.
there.
I did. I'm sorry.
What do we gain by removing that sentence? The pharmacy may allow skilled nursing facilities.
It implies that the pharmacy has to permit a skilled nursing facility to hand out envelopes.
We don't have,
And we don't have to, because anyone can hand out an envelope.
I'll get rid of it.
Yeah.
Unless it's warm.
Yes. Okay, so moving on, in Santa Rosa, I think it's the same thing. Their same comment, and we said policy decision, which we just did. 64C, commenter expressed concern that section C conflicts with section K.
I agree with staff.
Yeah.
Reject?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Kaiser, 76.42 G2. Kaiser removes adding manually or with a tool. I think we already
We've already
talked
talked
about
about
that.
this.
Yeah. We're gonna remove that one. Reject it.
Yep.
Doug Barcon, 64 G2. And that allow pharmacy staff to wear ASTM gloves. Again, they can do that. We don't have to make it a requirement. Okay with reject? 64.G2, comment, express concern
This is
and
the same thing we
requirement.
talked about.
Same thing. Corrugated far, we already addressed that. The next one, City of Santa Rosa would prevent the reverse distributor was establishing the liner HD number. Ginny, can you tell us about that one? 76.4H from City of Santa Rosa.
76.4H.
They're saying the commenter indicated the proposed text would prevent the reverse distributor. I'm thinking from establishing the liner HD number.
I don't know whether, Ann and I were working on that one a little while ago. I don't think we want to prohibit the reverse distributor from handing the liners, and to me, that makes a lot of sense on how you're going to get the liners in the pharmacies in the first place. It's going to come from the collector. So I think we need to be very cognizant of this one and make sure that it's okay. I don't see any reason why a reverse distributor that's providing a bag to a pharmacy couldn't serialize the, they should be able to serialize it, it makes sense.
Because there's nothing in here that prevents that, is what you're saying.
I don't think that there's anything one way or the other. The DEA regs, it's silent on where you
Oh, I
get the
think-
liners. The whole requirement in the DEA regs for liners is pretty wide open.
I think it's because it says here, the liner shall bear a permanent unique ID number established by the pharmacy. So your interpretation, established by the pharmacy, could be a reverse distributor doing that.
No, that's why that they could, instead of the pharmacy assigning that number, they could use a reverse distributor to assign the number, thereby, okay, Amy, in your hospitals, when you put in liners, you would probably, I'm assuming, get them from the reverse distributor, so they're all numbered, they're all done. The way that reads, I'm not really sure it allows a reverse distributor to supply you those liners. I think that is a good catch that we've never discussed before.
So what do you recommend we do?
I think we take the comment and we find a way to add or allow a reverse distributor. We need to kind of figure out a way to put this in, but we need to allow a pharmacy to obtain a liner from a source that can serialize it as well. I mean, that's really what it amounts to. So the actual wording, if I could get back to my language.
Well, while you're looking at your language, can I just go back to G2? So I know we want to take that sentence out, but don't we also want to add in that sealable in the sentence, 2 sentences above?
I think we talked about that. That we were supposed to add the seal
But
of
we did, that was a prior
That was a
sentence.
different
So I'm just saying,
section.
don't we want this to be consistent?
Yes.
Yes. You catch that one, Lori?
I'm
Yeah.
writing it down now.
You too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh,
Good
So
catch.
what's the one I'm looking on?
So Jenny, going back to this other one, what about if we just take out established by the pharmacy? What if we just say the liner shall bear a permanent unique ID number?
Perfect.
Or pre-entered into the liner
that's
by
a
the liners?
solution.
So let's just take that out. That way we don't have to say who does it.
Right.
Okay, so that, we're done with that one.
What section is that?
The gnats are back.
Yeah.
Those of you that are worried, the
It's
gnats
because
are
of
back.
food. All right, Sharps, 76.5E, commenter recommended that language be modified to read, for each sealed liner or mailback envelope received pursuant to Federal Title 21, the reverse distributor shall maintain the record of sealed inner liners or mailback envelopes or packages. Commenter indicated the mailback envelopes must be mailed to a reverse distributor and are not received from collectors or law enforcement.
I thought we fixed that.
76.5E. So staff said agree, collector or law enforcement is related to the sealed liners, not the mailback packages. The recommended language is clear. So staff's recommending we modify the language to what's referenced here?
That's what that says, 1776.5.
Everyone okay with that?
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
So this one's keep. I said take. I actually had already said that.
Okay.
I liked it too.
City of Santa Rosa, commenter expressed concern that it's not possible to create the records for receipt and destruction at the same time because the events may not occur at the same time. They requested the section be modified for consistently. Staff rejected it.
Mm-hmm.
We okay with that?
I'm okay
The
with
reason being, it's like a log. You can only fill in the dates as they come up.
2 more pages, we're almost done. San Francisco Department of Environment, commenter expressed concern that it's not possible to create the same thing, the same comment as before. And we recommend rejection. City of Santa Rosa, 76.6, commenter expressed concern that the reference section quoted is not correct and requested that it be corrected.
Staff will take care of this one.
Yeah.
This
We
one
can reject
do
it.
without a board motion.
Once
We can
it's,
fix
once we
this.
have the final language, we'll go through and modify all the authority and references that they make sure they all match.
Okay, perfect. Next one on Alameda County hazardous waste, recommend removing the section. They believe it's excessively burdensome for the pharmacy. A1,
And the response is this is a DEA
that we
requirement.
date each unique, these unused liners acquired its unique ID number. The pharmacy shall assign the unique ID number if the liner doesn't already contain one. And reject, staff says, is a DA requirement. We okay with that? Alameda County hazardous waste, this is A2, right below it. It's excessively burdensome for the pharmacy and goes beyond the DEA requirements. Commenters suggested the requirement for employees to sign off on the liner installation be removed and that the installation date be recorded on a sticker on the liner.
And it requires a log of some sort.
They don't want to have the employees to sign off on the liner installation. And that it be recorded on a sticker. Do we want that to have, every time they put a liner in, to have 2 pharmacy employees sign off that they put in a liner?
That's what the
I mean, they're not-
DEA require.
Well,
You
it
need a
says-
witness.
It
That's
says
a
here,
witness.
it says here that it goes beyond the DA requirements.
But if you read the staff's comment, it says no.
Laura, can you advise us on that?
So the liner
Placement.
installation and removal do require 2.
They do.
There
Yeah,
is a
there's a
comment I think I saw that spoke to what happens when the reverse distributor receives, and I do think that one is accurate, that there's a singular, if it's received at, but we'll get to that. I think
At
that's
the
coming, right?
reverse distributor's
At the
plant, it is one.
reverse, yes, as opposed to the reverse distributor picking it up.
In which case you need 2 again.
Right.
The goal is to not have this stuff hijacked.
But for this one, we still
It's
need to
2
have
is
2.
correct, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in this location, and it's consistent with, I think, 13.0, the federal regulation 1304.22.
Okay, the rest of the regs, the comments, San Luis Obispo commenter states the board is exceeding its legal authority, and they're talking about just creation of the regs, is that what that is?
Yes.
Yeah, and there's, that I can address a little bit. I think again, we want to look, oh, wait, it's in the second one, too. The board has the authority to regulate what happens in pharmacies, and also it has the authority to regulate how pharmacists behave and what's professional conduct and what's not. It also has the authority to enforce federal laws. Based on all those authorities, I think that it's pretty clear that the board has the authority to do this.
We were directed under the End of Life Option Act to specifically develop a process. So there was a specific mandate.
Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Jenny. Next one, San Luis Obispo, regulations will have a negative impact on the environment. That's just a comment. I don't think this is any.
So, actually, so
Request.
if you read the regulation, the comment
This kiosk
itself.
will close because they have to comply with our regs.
Right. So if you do read the comment, it does say that there's the concern about the board's authority to promulgate the regulation without doing an EIR under CEQA. I looked at that. I don't think this is considered a project under
Can't
the
imagine
terms
how
of
how you
CEQA.
can get those dots to connect.
And even if
I'm a
it,
drug, pharmacist.
even if it were even if for some reason somebody considered it a project, I think there are exemptions that apply. The board's not exercising discretion. So in long story short, I don't believe that the board
It's a stretch.
needs to
Reject is
modify
a good-
the regulation
Reject is a
with
good-
that
This is
comment.
something you have our attorneys handle instead of the board itself.
Good. I'm glad the attorney agrees with me then.
Okay, the next one is commenter recommends that the regs mirror the DA regulations. I think that's what our intent was when we created these, is to have them as clear as possible and define the DA regulations for pharmacies.
Right.
Commenter recommends that localities be allowed to use the DA regulations. I think that they have to anyway. I don't think we can tell pharmacies do not follow DEA regs, because that is a federal law. So I think we can reject that one as well. There were 3 comments received by the County of Los Angeles that were received after the closure of the comment period. Laura, you're recommending that they're just grammatical clarity changes
Yeah.
that we should adopt.
Yeah.
We don't want anything from the county.
I actually was not
Who
involved
signed
in
that,
this.
Laura?
I had no involvement in this one, but, okay. So it's add number after identification and add liner to whom the sealed liner and before was transferred. Okay, so we are with all of those changes. I guess we have to open it up for 15-day comments.
So
Yes, but
Oh, Laura?
Do you wanna
before
do a
we do, so I just found the comments that was
Oh,
about
that's right. There was
the-
another one you
the
had.
2 employees of the reverse distributor pickup. It's 1776.5 sub C.
Sub C. 2 employees of the reverse distributor shall pick up or accept the receipt of inner liners from DEA registrants.
So, and to the extent that that sentence would require that the reverse distributor have 2 employees receive from the common carrier, I think we need to amend the section to match the DEI reg.
1776.5 C.
Sub C.
2 employees shall pick up.
What does the DEA say, Laura,
The
on this?
pickup, it's, the pickup, I do believe, is consistent, because I think that speaks to what happens.
But not accept.
But not accept.
So can we just take
Um,
out or accept?
And we're 1 employee, it just says
Do you have a
specifically.
recommendation, how you want to do that?
At least 1 employee.
Well, you'd have to have at least 1 employee. I mean,
Yeah, well,
You're
either I have
accepting
no
it.
signature. No, if there's gonna be a requirement, at least 1 employee shall accept the delivery.
It's not easy to follow.
what do you recommend, Laura?
So 2 employees of the reverse distributor shall pick up or something. I think you could make it 2 sentences, have one deal with your picking up, and have a second sentence that says 1 employee may accept receipt of.
1 employee shall.
Yeah, we're not, well, at least.
That's what
At
I'm
least
saying, 1
one,
employee
yeah.
shall.
So is
Yeah.
everyone okay with that? Okay, so do I have a motion for opening this back up for 15-day comment?
So moved.
Second, Victor. Public comment.
Can I
Yes,
ask
Laura.
one more clarifying question? sentences. I'm writing this down so I don't miss out. On 1776.4, did I hear correctly that the board decided to remove subdivision A?
1776.4.
Or there are two requirements within subdivision A, which is, the first part is the skilled nursing facility employees, or otherwise, other person lawfully entitled to dispose of the decedent's property may
I think we're
dispose
going to
using
take
a
out.
take-back.
I think we're taking out the sentence that says the pharmacy may allow skilled nursing facility employees to distribute mail-back envelopes or packages to consumers. My understanding is we're going to
sentence?
take that sentence out.
Just this, that one
Right.
sentence, not the preceding or the subsequent?
I don't believe so.
Okay, well, I just want to be clear, because we don't want to make changes that you don't want. So, because the remaining language is there, and I wasn't clear what I heard, so I don't want to. Okay, so we're
striking,
just doing
The
that.
pharmacy may allow skilled nursing employees to distribute mail back to consumers.
Just
So
that one sentence.
Just the
got it.
one
Yeah.
sentence. Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Public comment.
Sure. Good afternoon, members of the Board of Pharmacy. My name is Patrick Holland. I'm here representing the
Is your
County
mic
of Los
on?
Angeles.
I don't think so.
See, Greg, you were talking about LA County.
hear
You
me
can
now?
ask him now.
So again, Patrick Holland from the County of Los Angeles, Department of Public Works. I appreciate the board's consideration of a lot of the comments they've received through the stakeholder process and the iterative process. We do think the regulations have improved. However, there are concerns, many of which you guys have discussed already, and it sounds like come to a decision, but I do appreciate you hearing our comments on this. First of all, the taking back of items such as EpiPens, we do see that still as a problem for the public. Right now, what would their options be? Would it be to put them in a Sharps container, where the majority of Sharps containers are processed through autoclaving, where autoclaving wouldn't destroy the medicine? Virginia made a comment about these possibly exploding in a incinerator. I don't think that's the case. I toured a facility that processes medical waste recently in Los Angeles County that's not an incineration facility. They process a lot of medical waste, and the vials of it may cause small flashes, but aren't going to be a detriment. Yes, sir.
To your comment about autoclaving not destroying the drug, it would destroy the drug.
Yeah, it would.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
I saw
It may look the same, but it's not a drug.
an email that was sent by the chief of the
He's wrong.
of the Medical Waste Management Program from the California Department of Public Health.
He's wrong.
In an email from her, Allison Dabney informed the board that says it won't be. So
Oh, okay.
maybe a matter of disagreement, but I do.
No, it's not.
That's what's
But that's secondary. And in the comment about explosion, there were a lot of comments about prices exploding. I don't know.
I think that's a whole separate issue.
That's a good one, Alan.
Hopefully Congress will take care of that.
Give him a cookie.
Oh, yeah. Without this chocolate, I would have never come up with that.
We disagree with the language remaining about a pharmacist using professional judgment to decide not to host a bin. We think that it could cause conflicts in areas like Santa Cruz, where there is mandatory participation by pharmacists, by pharmacies. So I guess I would just kind of pose the question to the board, how would you guys foresee a situation like that resolving itself, where it's mandatory for them to host the bins, but due to the current version of the regulations, you're saying they could just choose not to and not necessarily even provide any justification for not providing a bin?
I don't think they can just not use any justification. The regulations say that it's in their professional judgment, so they would have to utilize professional judgment rationale as to why they couldn't do that.
Do you think that could cause potential litigation between complying with an ordinance and then complying with this regulation?
Right, but not for LA County. So
Not
it would
for
be
LA
for
County.
other counties that
Absolutely.
actually, well, that's a decision, that when you have a mandatory regulation like that, of course, there's going to be some conflict. So I guess that'll be up to the courts to decide, is what we understand is, that's what we've been advised by our attorneys, that'll be an issue for litigation down the road.
But you come here representing LA County.
I do. I come here representing LA County, but I've been working with my colleagues from the city of Santa Rosa, San Francisco, Santa Cruz County who are unable to attend this meeting. So really, I'm giving comments on behalf of that we do concur with their comments. I wouldn't be raising it. Is it an issue for LA County? Not currently.
Have you heard of anything where LA County may be thinking about making it?
No, there's been no discussion about making it mandatory. I think our board is still going to be considering what they want to do with the Take Back program in the near future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That really kind of wraps up my comments. I appreciate your guys' time.
Thank you.
We have Allison's email. I just pulled it out.
Yeah, no, actually, it says on here that there are some unused pre-filled syringes and EpiPens are full of medication or have residual remaining med that should not be placed into a Sharps container. Please add a qualifier to the section that allows that these items, unused pre-filled items, i.e. EpiPens, to be placed in a drug collection container. To further educate the consumer, labels can be placed on each container or kiosk instructing what items should not be placed in them. This came from Chief Allison Dabney, Chief Medical Waste Program, California Department of Public Health.
That's the email I was referring to.
Yeah.
Thanks for reading that for the record.
The issue, we've had comments and the board chose to restrict the minimum labeling that goes onto the containers. At one point, we had a relatively detailed list of items that either could or could not be put in there, and the board chose to instead just remove it. And so this is going back the other way if we put EpiPens.
Well, my understanding when we put that in here is we did not want the pharmaceutical take-back bin to be a surrogate for someone just dumping all of their needles and syringes in there. I think that was the whole goal. I don't think we ever envisioned that it would be something where there was some drug component with the syringe. I mean, that's much my
Then couldn't there be
understanding.
an exception to the rule where, for regular Sharps, but Sharps that have a self-injected drug attached to them, this would be an appropriate place for them to be disposed of. I think that's our
Then you're going to end up
point.
in needles because all the syringes would be, that kind of a device, the needles and syringes. What you just described, there may be residual med in there, and that is a potential problem for anybody that comes in contact with the liner.
Specifically for EpiPens, particularly with
we're
AB
not-
1389 that was just signed by the governor, where EpiPens are going to maybe be showing up in public places so that they're readily available to be administered. There's going to be a lot more of these, regardless of the ridiculous price increase of them
Right.
that has been commented, that should be commented on. But there will be an increase in the number of these around that are going to need a proper place for disposal. And due to the email from the chief of the medical waste program, I think it is something for this board to consider an exception for EpiPens, which would be in a sleeve that wouldn't be a needle hazard.
Why would,
What about the Adrenoclick? Is that,
The board had one that was very specific. There was bronchial inhalers, there were a whole series of things
took
that
all
were in
those
there.
out.
And you took them all out because you figured it would, one, impair what goes into the bins, or two, have no impact on what goes into the bins.
So when you read it, it says medical sharps and needles. I mean, do we interpret that the same thing as a drug product that happens to have a needle on it? And when I read this,
Well,
I'm thinking
would
of just
think so.
syringes and
Our-
needles.
what is our intent to
It's not a
protect
needle.
anybody from needle sticks?
Yes.
And if that's our intent, then
Then it will
we
apply.
ought to, leave it the way it is. I mean, if it adds another degree of danger for those who are handling those liners and changing the liners and everything, if there's needles in there.
And I don't think regardless of what we put in here, no one's going to be
They're gonna do it.
policing these containers.
Yeah.
No one's going to be policing them.
Which
I
was
thought-
the
I
board's
the
thought in
liners
removing
were,
it.
Were of such thickness that the needle couldn't go through it.
No.
It's
It
for
won't,
hazardous
it-
drug.
it's tougher than a Glad bag, I guess, but it's not gonna stop, There's a concern throughout the supply chain of getting in contact with a needle.
Well, I think even one of the comments.
That's why we have it in a rigid container, so that it doesn't stick.
I mean, I thought one of the comments was from, was it that Doug, that he wanted some sort of
Additional,
Yeah.
yeah, there's heavier duty liners that
Yeah.
the board was looking at one point, the chemo liners, for example.
We pulled back on that.
Yeah, you did,
Right, we did.
you did.
But it does present a hazard when you have any kind of needle in there, EpiPen or anything else. It really does present a hazard to those who are handling this stuff.
would the board consider if it were in an unused original package? And I guess I would ask a question to the board for EpiPens. After an EpiPen has been administered, is there a sharp needle component that would be a hazard to
So there would be
the
no
workers?
drug in there? You're saying it's been administered, so there would be no drug remaining in the container?
Two situations, in one where it's the original package and then one where it has been administered. If it's in the original package, there shouldn't be any needle stick injury associated with it. All I'm trying to do is say that I think there needs to be options available to the public to properly dispose of these.
I think that's part of the issue we've got here. We've got a problem with needles, we've got a problem with now EpiPens with solutions still remaining in them.
Could we-
We've got bronchial inhalers that you can't apparently.
Can I ask Jenny, can we maybe after these regs come out, come up with some guidance and more clear
We absolutely are gonna
instructions?
have to. Some of the comments that were made were more based on a comment that someone
Mm-hmm.
made somewhere, and I think that provides color and clarity to where we're going. It may be sometimes difficult to enforce, but it provides the direction of where the board's going.
So that may be clear, just to put some guidance.
And I'm not sure anybody in the room's got a good answer, regrettably, for EpiPens. What are we gonna do with them? What have we been doing with them for 4 or 5 years?
Probably not disposing of them properly.
And I think that properly is what's the issue.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
very
Patrick.
much.
Any other public comment? Hey, Stan, come on up.
Hi, Stan Goldenberg. I'd like to get some clarification on drug destructions, not in a nursing facility or skilled facility, but in a lower level of care facility called an assisted living facility or board and care. And you have the size of these from 4 beds to 200-plus beds. And you have medications that have been discontinued where they want to destroy them. And they're also controlled medications. So my question is, would it be allowed for that facility, not a skilled facility, to either have a product, and I'm just going to pick one at random, something called RX Destroyer, where pills are placed into that product and they're rendered unusable, or a bag that is a mail back to a DEA-approved reverse distributor, so that that facility can keep putting medications in there, and they would be a document, a log, 2 people sign off on this document. They may or may not be a pharmacist, but they are employees and licensed for that facility. And then when that item gets full, it would be sent back to the reverse distributor and destroyed properly. Would that be an approved procedure with all of the documents that I've tried to read through on take-back or drug destruction?
Let me start, and then the board can come in with the policy side of it. The DEA regs are for skilled nursing only.
Right.
What you're describing is care environments that are really under the medical auspices of a licensed healthcare provider. So your options would be, the Board of Pharmacy has no jurisdiction now in the residential care home that you're talking about.
But you have
So
the
there-
jurisdiction of the pharmacy that services them.
But the pharmacy can't take the product back from your residence. But what they can do is they can go to law enforcement, that's an option for them. They can use mail-back envelopes, that is also an option for them. And that Medi-Dissolve or whatever you call it.
Yeah,
I don't know
RX
the name.
Destroyer.
Yeah, whatever that is, that would be another alternative. But they can't come back into a pharmacy, and we know that in the past, pharmacies have offered to help in that area. That is one of the things the DEA regs prohibit. You cannot take these drugs back from people. They can't take drug samples back either.
When the drugs are placed into this product, RX Destroyer, they're literally unretrievable.
Right.
The product actually becomes a solid mass, and the original instructions from the manufacturer was it could be disposed of in the trash. And in December of last year, the board said, they don't feel comfortable with that product being disposed of in the trash, and they'd rather have it being disposed in some type of biohazardous waste, which not necessarily meant.
I don't remember us having that discussion.
Okay, well, that's was at a meeting that I was at. So if.
board meeting or
It was at a board meeting. If this product is not, and a lot of these small facilities, they do not have biohazardous waste. How would the board look at the pharmacy taking this RX Destroyer container and putting it into a biohazardous waste receptacle that they have, that, you know, there's no chance of getting at the product? Would that be an acceptable procedure for the board?
First of all, most pharmacies, as I understand it, don't have a bio-waste container in them. Is that correct? I mean, inpatient facilities would.
Yeah, this would be something where the pharmacy is trying to do a service to these small facilities, so they would get a contract with a biohazardous waste.
Well, the RX Destroyer that you're talking about, that allows you to throw it into the trash presumably, and I assume that that's been appropriately vetted, but we don't know anything about the product, and it's outside the realm of these regs for us. That was not one of the options given to the Board of Pharmacy in the DEA regs.
Okay?
So, wherever this biomedical waste, the only thing I can think of is a wasting unit in an inpatient facility where you've got some leftover drug in a container that you have to waste. And there you've got very specific requirements, if it's a controlled drug, how you handle it and all that. But Stan, for a lot of your clients, I think a lot of them can use law enforcement to dispose of the drugs or use mail back. I don't know, and if the local waste disposal folks don't want that RX Destroyer material going into their landfill, and, you know, if it's destroying drugs, what else is it like?
So your feeling is that for a pharmacy that may be inspected by the State Board of Pharmacy, that a mail-back bag would be, and something that, once it's filled, and there would be procedures that the small facility, the residential care facility, would be able to send that back or have it picked up by a reverse distributor, that would be something where an inspector would not have a problem.
Inspector wouldn't be involved in it. It would be a mail-away thing, as Steve Gray likes to call them.
Right.
And it would go to a location that would destroy the product. It
right.
wouldn't come back to the pharmacy.
No, it doesn't come back.
The pharmacy just hands it out or sells it.
Or sells it or whatever.
But that's the pharmacy's role, is to provide it to the purchaser, who in this case would be a residential care home.
And on this RX Destroyer, if they continue to use that, because sometimes now this is going to come down to a matter of costs. These are small facilities that run on a very tight budget. So the RX Destroyer versus a mail-back bag, if there was costs, the board would feel comfortable with all that occurring at the facility level, not coming back to the pharmacy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
It cannot, whether we're comfortable or
Can't
not,
go
it
back.
cannot go back to the pharmacy.
Sam, maybe what we could do is have a call with Jenny to kind of go over what the options are for this, so that we can move the meeting along.
Oh, you made it very clear. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Stan.
Steve?
Steve Gray from Kaiser Permanente. Just to clarify something, the EpiPen, which is a brand name, often used interchangeable with all, but it's the brand name. The EpiPen, after the administration, the needle retracts. In the generic versions, they don't retract.
So there is a real live needle there.
Yes, and
Did you say the generic version, it does not?
it does not retract. That-
Same manufacturer, isn't it?
No, Mylan is coming out with their own generic, but there are other manufacturers on the market that,
Used to be,
that don't retract. And so, just to clarify that, and then who knows what's going to come in the future. To make it, the retraction, I don't know if the retraction is a patented part of the Mylan product, I don't know that, but there is that difference.
I think the issue is getting needles.
Yes.
In that receptacle. Yeah, some of them have been withdrawn back into the unit, and some of them haven't.
Right.
And it just presents an unnecessary hazard for those handling it.
Right.
And it's, it is a tough thing to deal with, but, we all have that jug that you put the needle products in.
And in other products where you dispense the medication, for an example, an injectable form, a pre-filled syringe, for an example, depending upon the dose, the entire product may not be used up when it's thrown away. So a lot of Sharps containers actually contain syringes and other products with drugs still left in it. So this would not be unusual. And how those are disposed of, is beyond me, but the point is that if they're in a Sharps container, the handlers are protected, and that was the intent. The other comment I want to clarify, because I saw some, I'm not sure everyone read my comments regarding the small slot or the tool. There is experience with some of the pilot programs where the sponsors of the pilot program did not want the expense of disposing of the prescription vials, bottles, and containers. And so they put in a very small slot that the only way you could put things in. Now, obviously, you couldn't get your hand in there if it's only that big. But the idea was that they wanted the patients to take the pills, the capsules, et cetera, out of the prescription vials and either put them in a plastic bag that they could shove through the slot or just put them directly in. And what the experience has been when people do that, next thing you know, there are pills around the bin because they don't all get in there. And also, you're asking the people to handle the medication. So whether it's driving in your car and they drop the bag or whatever. So my comment about the small slot was, wait a minute, how small is this slot going to be? And if it's really just an economic issue of not wanting to pay for the destruction and weight of the vials and so forth, that's something I think that, as Executive Officer Harrell said, we'll have to watch for. Also, these slots, whether they're this big or this big, are not what some people vision, and maybe it's some of you, as a secure mechanism. A lot of us thought that most of these bins, and some of them do, are kind of like a mailbox, where you've got something like this, and when it opens, it closes so that while you're putting this in here, you can't get to the rest of the bin. And then when it closes, it dumps it on in. Some of the bins don't have that. And
I think
so,
that would be up to the pharmacy, though, to see what it is. Because I know the one field trip we did, I think
They had a
Victor,
bin.
you were with, I don't think you can get into it. It was like a
No.
mailbox.
It was what you
Yeah,
just
well-
described. There was a barrier from
Remember?
getting,
But-
as much as we tried, we couldn't get into it.
okay. But some of the bins out there that have been in these pilot programs are not that type. And so, first of all, the slot's too small, and people can't put even like a 40-dram vial in of medication. They'd have to take that pills out and then kind of shove them in or put them in a bag or something. And I think that's problematic because we saw the pills around the bin. The other thing where they're out of state, there's been some experience where when they have that and they know that the pills and other things are in there loose, they just suck a vacuum tube in there and just suck them right on out.
Well, there was
But
also
that's what I
a
meant
picture
by a
in the
tool.
paper 2 weeks ago where they were literally fishing in the bin.
Right.
They had a hook on something, they were pulling
Right.
it out.
So my intent.
We shared that one. Yeah.
So my intent was that if you had this type of a device specified, then you can't put a tool in there when it's open because it's either closed, you can't put a tool in, and you can put 40-dram vials. And the reason I say 40-dram vials is because the medications you're talking about are often maintenance medications where the patient has been switched. And you've got 100-day supplies, 90-day supplies. Remember, a pharmacist can now increase the quantity up to a 90-day supply under their own authority without checking with the prescriber if it's a maintenance medication and the patient has had it before. So you've got, in a lot of these leftover meds or meds that are unwanted because the patient has been changed in therapy, you've got a lot of large packages. Also for mail order, whether, typically, some of you may have experienced this, whether you get 30 tablets or 300, they come in the same size bottle, and they don't fit in a lot of these small slots. So a lot of patients out there, especially with mail order, the automation is made for 1 or 2 size bottles and not, a small one for 30, a bigger one for 60, et cetera. 300 or 400 pills in a bottle coming in all the way up. So I just wanted to mention that was what was behind my thought. You may want to specify the type of closure, not just a slot.
Thank you, Steve. Hi, Bob.
Hi. Robert Stein, speaking as a public person, not speaking for my employer. This whole situation seems like a true theater of the absurd. And the reason is there is absolutely no responsibility on the consumer other than hopefully following the instructions on the collection bin, but all the responsibility and liability on us. It's the only situation I know of that has this kind of a weird, the originator of the problem is the person putting a wrong product, a sharp, into a container that's not intended for it. Yet, if that sharp then downstream causes a problem, who's going to wind up with a liability and a lawsuit? So,
Very good point.
Isn't that the
Just-
case with opioids too?
Exactly.
Everything.
Yeah. So I just wanted to point that out. It's pointing out the obvious, but I thought I'd be on record. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Otherwise, sorry, Laura?
I'm sorry, I'm going to do one more that I spotted, and I'm trying to find the corresponding federal rule. It's one more that I'm not sure was completely addressed in the chart, but was in the comments, and that is under 1776.4, sub C. There is a discussion of the pharmacy hospital clinic with the on-site pharmacy installing a collection receptacle in a skilled nursing facility. Only the pharmacy shall remove, seal, transfer, store, supervise. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Shall I repeat?
Please.
Yeah. So 1776.4 sub C. Sub C applies to a
Skilled
well,
nursing.
skilled nursing bin, a receptacle in a skilled nursing facility. But sub K also speaks to the installation, removal, transfer, and storage, and to the extent that they might be distinct. So I do see a little bit of a conflict, and I couldn't resolve it, so I wanted to kind of raise it.
What's the conflict, Laura?
So sub C says that only the pharmacy shall remove, seal, transfer, store, supervise the removal, sealing, transfer, and storage of the sealed inner liners at long-term care facilities as specified. And then sub K says the installation, removal, transfer, and storage of inner liners shall be performed only by one employee of the authorized collector pharmacy and one supervisory level employee of the long-term care facility, e.g. a charge nurse or supervisor designated by the authorized collector or under the supervision of the 2 employees of the authorized collector pharmacy.
Do you want to make a reference to K and C?
I think we may be able to delete C in its entirety, because I'm not sure we get anything out of C.
Except it's going to cause a renumbering problem, which potentially is a problem.
But I was looking for the reg to see if I could verify that I'm.
The installation.
You're right, I'm not sure, I'm not
They-
sure we need C.
they
I
seem
agree with you.
redundant.
I think C is not necessary. It's got slightly different information, but the impact's the same.
So we
But
should
you
just
don't wanna-
remove C?
That would be my
Is
recommendation at
everyone
this
okay
point.
with that?
Good.
Okay. Any public comment regarding removal of C?
Does that change our, is it still 15-day?
It is still a
Yes.
15-day, yeah.
Okay, so did we have,
You had a motion, so.
And we have a second from Victor.
Public comment.
And so now you would need to edit the motion to accommodate
To add one more.
the change that we just made to C.
Is that
of
okay to?
1776.4?
Modify your
I think
motion?
we're the first, the motion in the second.
Okay. Do we also want to add the language, oh no, we're going to have to come back anyway, never mind. We have to come back for 15-day, back to the board.
Well, we want to clean this up because when's the drop dead date on this reg, Lori, do you know?
February.
Oh, God.
We have plenty of time.
Well, let's not take that time. We need to get the regs out.
Okay.
Okay, so
All
you-
all those in favor, raise your hand. Okay.
Paige, are you saying you
Okay.
needed something to say?
So, two,
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting less and less comments, so we're getting closer to having something.
Hi.
Hi.
Paige Talley with California Council for the Advancement of Pharmacy. The California Department of Public Health and Waste Management already have in place, and I don't know if it's in the Health and Safety Code or if it's in Title 22, but there is something out there that governs how the meds are taken from and destroyed at a facility, nursing facility. And I don't know if these will conflict with that.
I think it would be another option for them.
Okay, so it's not conflicting, because I mean, they already do what they do, and they only require one pharmacist and one nurse at the facility to destroy the meds.
That's what Kay will do.
Okay, and then, but taking the liner out and all of that stuff is a little bit different than I think than what you've explained. So I just want to make sure it doesn't conflict.
days to review it and get back to us.
Okay, I will do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on.
so,
Yes.
just quickly housekeeping, so no 15-day notice, my guess is you'll get comments, but do you want to delegate the authority just in case you don't get comments, or? I
Yeah,
don't
that's
wanna
what
miss-
that's where I was going originally, and I thought for sure we're going to get comments. Just, I can't envision that we're not going to get any comments.
Okay.
Well, we also have a board meeting in 6
Oh,
weeks.
that's
so
true.
the timing is good.
We'll be fine.
That's true.
Okay. Did everyone need a lunch break? I think we've already been eating
Some of
while
us-
we're,
Some of us were unprofessional and ate right during the meeting. Okay.
okay, okay. Okay,
Are we having a brief break anyway?
yeah, let's do a 15-minute break.
For whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Whatever. I have some. Or, you know, if you want to go and